and state there is a quorum of Lincoln County present.
Clerk, please read the roll for the city council.
Councilor Oppenheimer.
Here.
Pankinen.
Here.
Siggety.
Here.
Spellerberg.
Here.
Thomason.
Present.
Basie.
Here.
McCurris.
Here.
Okoye.
We have a quorum of members present as well.
All right, then I will ask everyone to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Amen. Go ahead, sit down, I'll roll in.
Can we have a motion to approve our regular agenda?
So moved.
Got a motion by Aaron, second by Schmidt, to approve our regular agenda. Any discussion or debate? If not, will the clerk call the roll, please?
Commissioner Putnam?
I don't know, yes, I didn't hear that.
Schmidt?
Yes.
Aaron's?
Yes.
Otten?
Aye.
Landine?
Yes, motion carried.
Can we have a motion from the city council to approve the agenda?
So moved, Siggety.
Second, Spellerberg.
Motion has been moved and seconded. Any discussion or debate? Seeing none, roll call vote, please.
Councilor Oppenheimer.
Yes.
Pankinen.
Yes.
Siggety.
Yes.
Spellerberg.
Yes.
Thomason.
Yes.
Basie.
Yes.
McCurris.
Yes,
Okoye.
Yes.
that is passed 8-0.
All right, first we have a resolution adopting the joint jurisdictional Lincoln County City of Sioux Falls 2050 Comprehensive Plan, sponsored by the Sioux Falls Mayor. And it will be the Lincoln County will take action on the item first.
Good evening. I'm Fletcher Laycock. I'm Senior Planner with the City of Sioux Falls Planning and Development Services Department. This has been a 2.5-year process of public engagement, and this is our final step in the process is the adoption. So thank you for our new council members. This is the end of the process, but you do have that final step in getting it approved in our joint jurisdiction area. Wanted to hit really hard on our public engagement process. We really put in a lot of effort working with our stakeholders, a lot of pop-up events that staff went to get in public engagement at different events, such as the farmers market. We had an online engagement website, community listening sessions, public visioning workshops, statistically valid community survey, where we got a lot of data from the city and our growth area, basically giving us the proof that this is what our community is looking for when it comes to our growth over the next 25 years. Focus group meetings, stakeholder interviews, and then we had a robust advisory committee with members from different agencies and organizations, including Lincoln County, and we met with them on a regular basis. So our three main goals: effectively manage growth, plan neighborhoods, land use, and urban form, and improve the resilience of the community. These are the goals that came out of our 2040 plan, and they were so effective that we kept them in place. What we did learn about from our public engagement were 6 trends that people see as issues for our future next 25 years. Those are housing and neighborhoods, transportation and mobility, conservation and resiliency, economic and cultural development, community health and services, and then infrastructure and public spaces. Now, what we don't see a lot of is community health and services in a land use plan, but it was so talked about, homelessness and other social services, that we needed to include it as a part of our comprehensive plan. When we're looking at the future, next 25 years, this is really, we're planning for our kids in the future. We're looking at anywhere from 370,000 to 413,000 population for the city of Sioux Falls in the next 25 years. We kind of go with that middle 395. A lot of change will take place. We'll need a lot of land for development. And what we like to do is work with our neighboring counties and communities, Lincoln County, Minnehaha County, and identifying where growth should happen and what types of growth we should see. So we look at a lot of data, looking at how much land we need in the future, where we need different parks and other public facilities in the future. And here's where we get down to our development areas map. This shows you the City of Sioux Falls growth area, which is Highway 106 on the south, and then everything north up to city limits. And those blue colors, or the blue, the green, and the orange, identify different tiers for land use development. So the blue means that there will be city services available in the next 1 to 5 years. The blue is 6 to 15, and then tier 3 would be 16 to 25. So we're looking at where city services would be available in those timeframes. But still, we're not, it doesn't mean that people can develop, the utilities still need to get there, and development that does happen does need to be able to support itself. And so we do look at future land uses, and again, not much has changed since our last one. We've added some green lines on that southeast side showing where there are corridors that are environmentally floodplain or drainage areas. What you'll notice, little dots at major intersections, those are arterial streets where we expect to see small-scale commercial development. It's limited in the number of acres that could be developed. And then along those corridors, orange lines on that southeast side, that shows where we would want to support higher density residential development, and that light yellow color is low-density residential development. So you'll notice there's a lot of yellow on that southeast side with our joint jurisdiction with Lincoln County. So again, wanted to hit on what our themes were: housing, cost of housing, availability of housing, transportation and mobility. We're seeing a lot of that with the e-bikes right now, but also thinking about transit and the way that people get around town. So hopefully in the next couple of years, we'll see that Veterans Parkway completed, economic development, community services, and infrastructure. And then the way that the city is going to work with Lincoln County in the future is through sub-area plans, and that's where we will do a public engagement, look a lot more in-depth at issues on that southeast side. So I believe it's the southeast and the south sub-areas. We'll be doing public engagement in those areas to see what type of growth to expect in the future. So to go over kind of how we've worked with Lincoln County through this last 2.5 years, we do work with our Joint Jurisdiction Planning Commission. We had meetings and updates on February 12th, 2025, December 9th, March 17th, and then tonight with the Joint Jurisdiction elected officials being this final step in the process. And then as part of our public engagement and stakeholder groups, we had focus groups, which included Lincoln County Rural Water, so that we knew they were aware of what development was proposed, and as well as Lincoln County being involved in that. And then on our advisory committee, we had Jerry Jongling, who is also a Lincoln County resident. So with that, I'd like to thank you all for listening to me for now, and then if you have any questions on the Shape Sioux Falls 2050 Comprehensive Plan, I'm available for questions.
All right, thank you. Is there anyone from the public who would like to speak to this agenda item? All right, if not, does the commission have any questions for staff? All right, can I get a motion to approve this agenda item?
I'll move to approve with the following 2 amendments. I've placed them in a printout sheet in front of everyone. You should have a copy of them. My first amendment, I'll just read them off here. First Amendment states that upon passage of the resolution adopting the Shape Sioux Falls 2050 Comprehensive Plan for the joint zoning and plating jurisdictional area, a hearing on a moratorium to be imposed on hyperscale data centers shall be scheduled to take place on the last Tuesday of September at 7 p.m. Second Amendment states the following: the parties to this joint jurisdictional agreement may not enter into an agreement with a non-governmental entity, private person, or public-private business concerning any application made under the joint zoning and plating jurisdiction area, which requires confidentiality or non-disclosure. An agreement under this section is a public record as defined in SDCL 1-27-1.1.
That is my motion.
Have a
I
motion.
second it.
I've got a motion and a second.
Madam Chair,
Is
now
there
that
any
the,
discussion or debate?
Madam Chair, now that the motion's been seconded and open for discussion, I'd like to make the following statement. Tonight, I'm asking this body to support a temporary pause, otherwise called a moratorium, on the development of large-scale data centers within the joint jurisdictional area shared by the city of Sioux Falls and Lincoln County. Just so the public knows, it was up on the map there earlier. I want to be clear about what this proposal is and what it is not. Moratorium is not a ban on technology, investment, or economic development. It is a pause. It gives time to both governmental bodies to understand an entirely new category of industrial development before we permanently commit some of the most valuable and fastest growing land in our region to it. In fact, Lincoln County is the fastest growing county in the state. 10th fastest growing county in the nation per capita. We're experiencing tremendous growth. The land surrounding Sioux Falls is under increasing demand for housing, commercial development, agriculture, transportation corridors, schools, other public infrastructure. If or when hundreds of acres are committed to a massive data center campus, that decision is effectively permanent. I don't want a U.S. bank-sized stadium data center in my backyard. My neighbors don't want it in their backyard, and the people I talk to in the joint jurisdictional area don't want it in their backyard. In case you haven't been following, here in Lincoln County, we didn't want a prison. We didn't want a pipeline. We didn't want a campground on our golf course. People have real concerns about land use conflicts. And so, in order to alleviate those concerns, but also to build trust between the people and their government, now is the time to hit the timeout button, hit the pause button, and then bring these two bodies together, the city of Sioux Falls and the county, to have a true collaborative discussion about what the guardrails will be. Because, and just so the public, for your understanding, if somebody wants to submit a proposal right now for a data center, they could. And it would only take a simple majority of both the county commission and the city to get it approved. There's no guardrails right now. And everybody's using that term, what are the guardrails? What are the rules going to be? How's this going to protect me? It could take these two bodies an entire year to figure out what its ordinance could be. But you know what happens during the course of that year? People get to submit their applications for data centers. And contrary to what some folks have said, you know, the last legislative session, they didn't pass a sales tax exemption. In fact, Governor Roden made a campaign pledge. He said he was not for sales tax exemption. But he didn't say anything about sales tax refunds and sales tax rebates. And so the new legislature could sit in January and it could say, we're going to make South Dakota more attractive to big hyperscale data centers. And with passage of that law, we now have the issue back in our hands. And I just want to say this. On Monday, I had the opportunity to tour a Minnehaha County business located in Brandon that builds small modular data center buildings. They are under 2 megawatts. They are about the size of a shipping container. And guess what? Their business is going gangbusters. And you know who's purchasing their equipment? All the communities who don't want big hyperscale data centers. And they're a South Dakota-based business. And I asked them, I said, what effect will a moratorium have? Will there just be more demand for our product? And that's a South Dakota business. So I've heard some say This sends a dangerous message to the business community. Well, I have small modular data center construction people telling me it sends a great message to them because they're going to do better business and they're going to do more business because they've figured out what you and I have already figured out. We don't want a U.S. Bank Stadium-sized data center in our backyard. People can live with the little small ones. Maybe even a bunch of the little small ones. They've also figured out the water issue. They are powered through a regular HVAC system that doesn't take a water-cooled system. It uses a fan, this electrical fan system. And then what they do is they go to these communities that have excess electrical capacity, primarily in rural areas, and then they locate there, and then they use the electrical company's excess electricity. And what that does is it means that the electrical provider doesn't have to build out more infrastructure because they're only powering a 2 megawatt system instead of a 100 or 500 megawatt system. So these folks have figured it out. And a moratorium will be excellent business for a South Dakota company. Now I'll tell you what, there's nobody here in South Dakota that's building hyperscale data centers. But some say that would send a bad message to them. And you know what? I'm okay with that. Because I don't want a large-scale data center in my neighbor's backyard. And I want rules and regulations. And I want to start the conversation and the collaboration with the city to talk about what the rules will be in the joint area. So that's what the amendment for the moratorium is. It's just an opportunity to talk. Second Amendment. My amendment number 2 is very simple. It just says you can't, Lincoln County and the city of Sioux Falls cannot, we are prohibited from signing a non-disclosure agreement covering zoning projects in the area. There's been issues with the use of, with the issue of non-disclosure agreements right here, right in Sioux Falls. I'm a Sioux Falls resident, Sioux Falls voter, Sioux Falls taxpayer. I want the public's business to be in the light, needs to be discussed in the light of day. It can't be shielded and hidden behind non-disclosure agreements because that's antithetical to everything we're about here in America when it comes to transparency. And if some big data center company says, well, I'm not going to invest in your community if you make me sign that NDA, well, go somewhere else then. We don't want your business. But the data center companies are actually seeing the light. Microsoft said they're no longer going to enter into them. So this isn't just old Aaron's coming up with this idea. This big, huge company, Microsoft, said the same thing. And that's great. They're self-policing themselves. They voluntarily agreed to do that. But let's make it the law now. Let's make those two things the law in the joint jurisdictional area. I just want to say this also. God's not making more land. He's not. It is our most, behind our people, it is our most valuable commodity in Lincoln County. It's the land. And I think most folks have a vision for what the land is going to produce for them in this county. It's going to produce housing, rural residential housing. As the city of Sioux Falls grows south, it's going to produce urban housing. It's going to produce commercial. We're going to build schools there. We're going to build other infrastructure there. It's also going to continue to be used for agriculture. Those are all great things that we can do with our land. And we got to ask ourselves, is the juice worth the squeeze with data centers? And I don't think it
Commissioner, you
is.
want to wrap it up so we can move on and have other people
Let
that
him
are here
speak.
have an opportunity to speak?
We're good. Let
You
him
haven't been
speak.
recognized, Commissioner Putnam?
I don't care. Just let him
Obviously.
speak.
Freedom of speech, let it talk.
Anybody speaking out from the audience is going to be asked to leave.
Have you seen those videos on Facebook recently where people get arrested when they talk at data center meetings? Don't make Lincoln County, don't put the county in the news for that.
Commissioner, I asked you to wrap up your comments.
Yeah, we know you did.
Are there any other Lincoln County commissioners
Yeah,
who
I guess I'll
would like
speak for a while then.
to have
How's that
discussion or
sound?
debate? Go ahead.
Well, I concur with Joel. He does a good job. He's set up everything right. He's seen what's going on. And I believe him to be spot on the money on this. So I'd like to hear him speak again. Finish up your deal.
Any other people on Lincoln County that would like to have discussion or debate? All right, we have a motion on the floor.
Madam Chair.
Go ahead, Commissioner Otten.
So, I just want to be clear on this Amendment 1 here. So that would do nothing more than to schedule a hearing on the last Tuesday, September, 7 o'clock, a public hearing for... I'm sorry. So Amendment number 1 would do nothing more than to schedule a meeting on Tuesday, September 7th, for a public hearing on a moratorium to be imposed on hyperscale data centers.
That's correct, Commissioner. The reason I can't just put an amendment in here tonight that says pass a moratorium is because we have a state law that says before you pass a moratorium, you have to hold at least one hearing. And this is the same procedure that we used in front of this county commission back in February when we scheduled our moratorium. I put it on the agenda. We talked about it. We as a commission passed a date and time for the hearing, and then we held it. So tonight's amendment would start the collaborative process. It also invokes and triggers the procedure that has to be followed by law in order for a moratorium to even be considered.
Commissioner Otten, before you came on, we actually referred the data center issue back to our Planning and Zoning Commission, or team, to bring back recommendations, and they brought back a recommendation of no changes to what's out there. So that's where things are in the, I guess, current. They haven't brought back a recommendation to pass a moratorium or actually to change anything about our comprehensive plan.
Can you speak into your mic, please? The people in the overflow cannot hear you.
Does that make sense?
Yes, so Planning and Zoning, Lincoln County Planning and Zoning has not brought anything back from that previous meeting.
Their recommendation was no
No
change.
change. Okay, thank you.
Madam Chair,
Go ahead, Commissioner Schmidt.
you know, when listening to you, Commissioner, you articulate very well. Why would anybody ever not want to vote for a moratorium? Well, is that the only way that you get this? I looked at the plan that we have, joint jurisdiction, and I didn't see any room for data centers. There is so much misinformation about this that, and it's caught on. It's very popular to be anti-data center. But on the other hand, if you're going to hold this, I like what the mayor of City of Sioux Falls said when asked about this, that she said she was in favor of having a series of meetings, public meetings, in which the vetting of a data centers, hyper, or local, whatever, where all of the players come and all of the information is presented, the pluses and the minuses, without having to have a moratorium and send a message to anybody. We haven't had anybody in Lincoln County, or no one has ever explored the data center here, at least to my knowledge. I don't think that if you talk to the energy company, Southeastern Electric, that anybody's ever talked to them. And besides that, you know, we talked about the state legislature, and we're one of the few states that charge sales tax on electricity. So my question is, why would a senator even want to consider South Dakota when you can go to Minnesota, Iowa, Nebraska and get the very same thing? I'm not saying that we should not vet and we should not explore and we should not do all of that. But we have a process where we put our planning and zoning people together. They came back with a no change to this. I'm not saying that we shouldn't have a series of public meetings in this building and bring the experts in. But I don't think that a moratorium is probably the way, in my version, that we should follow. And I'm not going to support that.
All right, we've got a motion on the floor. Will the clerk call the roll, please?
Commissioner Putnam?
Yes.
Schmidt?
No.
Aaron's?
Yes.
Otten?
Nay.
Landine?
No. Motion fails.
City Council, we have before us a resolution adopting the joint jurisdiction Lincoln County, City of Sioux Falls 2050 Comprehensive Plan. Is there a motion to approve that resolution as presented?
Move approval. Spelberg.
Second, Basie.
Moved by Spellerberg, seconded by Basie. Any discussion or debate on the resolution for the 2050 Comprehensive Plan?
Just a point of clarification, this is without the amendments that were
It-
previously,
It is, and I think council can correct me if I'm wrong. I'd like to circle back and see if there is a substitute motion on the comprehensive plan for the county. Would that be the appropriate way to go? Okay,
I'll have a substitute motion, Madam Chair,
so what is your substitute motion, Commissioner?
to approve the adoption of the joint jurisdiction between Lincoln County and the City of Sioux Falls and the 2050 Comprehensive Plan.
Is there a second?
Second.
Got a motion by Schmidt, second by Otten. Any discussion or debate?
Yes. Good evening, again. Probably the same person who called Commissioner Schmidt, who used the same exact talking points, called me tonight. And what he said to me is, let's have a series of public meetings between, if the amendments don't pass, he wanted a series of meetings set up between the City of Sioux Falls and Lincoln County, where, and he used the same word, all the players come in. Get the electrical utilities come in, get the citizens, like all of you who come in. Data center people can come in. Anybody who's interested gets to come and talk to us. Because as you can see, getting an opportunity to get the public to speak with us is difficult. And we need to facilitate that. That creates trust between us as elected officials and the residents. So what I would do is I would make an amendment to your substitute motion stating that Sioux Falls City Council and the Lincoln County Commission will meet, I'm flexible on this, but let's meet in October, say, and let's have a discussion between us and the community. And let's set that for, let's say, the last Tuesday in October at 7 p.m.
I agree with that.
I've got a motion, and then I had a substitute motion. So why don't we move forward? Is there a second on Commissioner Schmidt's motion?
Well, we have to vote on the amendment to the substitute motion.
Madam Chair?
Go ahead.
One comment, Commissioner Aaron's, I don't know who you were referring to, but no one called me with what I had to say. There was nobody there that, and I don't know where you come up with that, but if that satisfies you, fine. But I have never talked to anybody other than individuals that are either engineers or individuals that have had vast experience with data centers and have run in them for 20 years, so I don't know of what you're saying. I don't necessarily object, sir, to your idea of having a combined, both the city council and the commission to hold something like this and to be able to discuss this in the public. I find that to be, I can support that.
So Commissioner Aaron's, you want to clarify your motion? It is to approve the plan with that concession that we have meetings in October?
So Commissioner Schmidt made a motion to adopt the 2050 comp plan. That was seconded by Commissioner Otten. I made an amendment to his motion to approve the comp plan that states the city council and the city of Sioux Falls will get together on the last Tuesday in October, and we're going to bring all these people in, send invitations out to all the key players. Anybody who wants to come in and have a discussion with their elected officials.
So is there a second to your amendment?
There was,
Yes.
Commissioner Putnam already made that.
All right.
Yeah.
I like that idea.
Will the clerk call the roll, please?
Commissioner Putnam?
Yes.
Schmidt?
Yes.
Aaron's?
Yes.
Otten?
Aye.
Landine?
No. Motion carries.
Now do we pass the regular one?
We just did.
Okay,
We just did.
okay.
Whoa.
We got that done.
I thought you passed the substitute.
Point of order. Are we following Robert's rule of order? No, okay. Well, that was just the vote on an amendment.
Yes.
We got to vote to
That was
approve
on
the
the
amendment.
amendment.
That
Vote to
wasn't a
approve
vote
the
on-
amended main motion.
They don't use Robert's rules.
Well, you still got to
So-
vote to approve the amended main motion.
Yes.
Yes.
Commissioner Putnam?
I guess I gotta figure out, what are we doing now? State fact.
The county needs to vote to approve the amended main motion.
Yes.
The amended main motion.
And that was to approve the 2050 comprehensive plan between Lincoln County and the city.
Okay, I approve that, plus what Joel has going on.
Schmidt?
Yes.
Aaron's?
Yes.
Otten?
Aye.
Landine?
Yes. Motion carries.
City Council, at this time, we will entertain another motion to approve the resolution adopting the joint jurisdiction of Lincoln County of Sioux Falls 2050 comprehensive plan. Is there someone that would make that motion?
So moved, Thomason.
Second.
Moved by Thomason, seconded by Spellerberg. Is there any discussion, debate, or amendments on that motion?
I have a question on it. Does it add an amendment that the last Tuesday in October, there'll be a meeting here with both parties?
If I may ask Commissioner Ames, if you could just read that amendment one more time, and if Councilor Pinckney would like to make that motion, she could just say so moved. Would you read that for us one more time?
Yeah. Commissioner Schmidt made a motion to adopt the comprehensive plan, and I made an amendment to that, which was passed, that stated that the city of Sioux Falls and the Lincoln County Commission will hold a joint meeting at 7 o'clock on the last Tuesday of October to discuss the data center issue, and we'll send invites out to anybody who wants to attend.
So Councilor Pinckney, if you'd like, you could say so moved on that amendment.
Yes, so moved on that amendment.
Is there a second on the amendment?
Second, Thomason.
Any discussion or debate on the amendment of holding a meeting with Lincoln County on the fourth Tuesday of October at 7 p.m.? Councilor Basie.
Would it be appropriate or something to think about to then include Minnehaha County in that discussion too, if we're going to be having a meeting like that?
Great idea. Great idea.
The commissioners indicated, and I think it's up to each body to invite the different people that they want to participate in. So I'm not hearing any objections from any individuals that they'd object to an invitation like that.
Okay, thanks.
Any other discussion or debate on the amendment? Councilor Oppenheimer.
I think this amendment's a good move for transparency, making sure that we get facts on the table. It's important, though, that we, in having an open forum like this, that we have some kind of format for it and put together something that makes sure that every party is heard, but that it doesn't become that we have it well formatted so it continues to be informational while allowing for good public input.
Thank you, Counselor. Other discussion or debate on the amendment? All right, roll call vote on the amendment, please.
Counselor Oppenheimer,
Yes.
Pankin,
Yes.
Siggety,
Yes.
Spellerberg,
Yes.
Thomason,
Yes.
Basie,
Yes.
McCurris,
Yes.
Okoye.
Yes.
That amendment has passed 8-0. Now back to the amended main motion. Any discussion or debate on the amended main motion? All right, seeing none, roll call vote on the amended main motion, please.
Counselor Oppenheimer,
Yes.
Pankin,
Yes.
Siggety,
Yes.
Spellerberg,
Yes.
Thomason,
Yes.
Basie,
Yes.
McCurris,
Yes,
Okoye.
Yes.
that has passed 8-0.
All right, now is our time for public input. It's 5 minutes for speaker for items not on our agenda. If you want to come up, now would be the time to do so.
I'm sorry, I'm stealing the mic from you. Hi, everybody. I'm Amanda Kendall from Lot Sioux Falls Vote. Can you guys hear me okay? I know that they're having trouble back there. Is that better? Okay, awesome. So my name is Amanda Kendall. I am the chair of Lot Sioux Falls Vote. I just wanted to thank you guys so much for even talking about the possibility of this community conversation. This has been something that I've personally been advocating for a very long time, since January. I've been trying to figure out how to get this done, and you guys just showed the community that you're willing to work with us, and I honestly could cry with how much excitement I have. My one ask is that you create a public advisory board when you're starting to put together ordinances, with like the main people that we have standing behind myself and my coalition, which is Dakota Rural Action, South Dakota for Data Center Transparency, and Lot Sioux Falls Vote. We have been working really hard to try to educate the community, and we would love to also educate you guys, because I know that this is a really big topic and it's very complex. So we want to be able to provide case studies, organized educational topics from really great sources like Berkeley and all these great resources that we've combined for everyone. So I don't know. I know that I personally have been I've probably spent over 1,000 hours on data center related topics since January, and I have found that the community has put countless hours in this as well. And I just want to make sure that there's not just Minnehaha County, Lincoln County, or City Council, but also a public advisory board of the main organizers that have been working diligently through this process to create and draft ordinances across the board for all of those municipalities. I know that as City Council members and as county commissioners, your lives are hard. Most of you have full-time jobs on top of this part-time job, and trying to do all that really deep research into data center related issues is really difficult. And I want to make sure that we can provide everyone with the right education to make really great ordinances. So if they do decide to draft or try to establish here, we have facts to base our ordinances on. But yet again, I just really want to thank you guys for advocating for your community. And I really want the community to know that these guys we've been meeting with them, and they have been very courteous and understanding. And I just want you guys to, don't let them have it too hard, okay, guys? They're working really, really hard to advocate for you as well. So thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you for coming up.
Good evening. My name is Gene Childs, and I live in Minnehaha County, thank God. In my opinion, this is a dog and pony show. I was here for the prison initiative to the same kind of meeting, and it was a dog and pony show, and I left here very frustrated. We had a moratorium that could have been passed, to my understanding, and we had a little bit of arguing, which I think was theater, and then, of course, it was not passed in our favor. That's my understanding of what was going on. if you are for we the people, for goodness sakes, pass the darn moratorium. What are you afraid of? The truth? Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Jennifer McNamara. I live in Lincoln County. I grew up in Minnehaha County. I have work in Minnehaha County and have family in both counties with land and business investments. I just want to get up and speak for everybody that has been tagging along with this, and as you look around, there's a lot of people in the hallway as well. We're not all just here saying not in my backyard. Some of us are saying not in our waterway. Some of us are saying not in our fields. Some of us are saying not out of our pocket. We don't want increases to our personal utilities. I was very interested to find out last night Minnehaha County doesn't have enough water to set up a sprinkler system because of water pressure. Now I'm researching that. But one of the things that was touched on last night in Minnehaha County was definitions, layman's terms versus what's going to actually be written down, and how we speak about it. And tonight, almost exclusively, you've continued to use the phrase data center. And we understand that Sioux Falls is sitting on many data centers. We're a hub for all kinds of businesses, all kinds of healthcare. They all need data. It's all got to be held somewhere. But they're not hyperscale data centers. In kind, generally when the public is coming here and we're talking to you, we're not saying not in my backyard to data centers. We all have a phone in our pocket. We're all going to go home and complain about all of you on it later. But we're saying no to the hyperscale data centers. We're saying no to names that we all know now whether we want to or not. Meta, Google, Amazon. We're saying no to billionaires who don't need to make any money and could balance the budget of every state if they wanted to, that are saying things like, drink less water so we can make more memes. None of us want that. Reasonable data, reasonable business, ownership from within the state, percentage of the ownership from a stakeholder in who we are and what we believe in here, not outside companies and things like that. I think one thing that I want to tell everybody from Lincoln County that does not attend Sioux Falls or the city council meetings there, Council Chairman Curtis, as always, Robert's Rules wins. Things like that. A lot of us, we don't pay attention to those things because we trust you guys to pay attention to those things every week. We vote for you guys to pay attention to even the order of operations. And it makes us nervous. It makes us nervous when we're all using different terms, sometimes to mean the same thing, sometimes to mean different things. And when you guys aren't sure, is it a state law? Is it the PUC? Is it an amendment? Do we vote on it? We don't want you to say yes to just let strangers come in and not in our backyard, not in our waterways, not in our fields, things like that. In 2008, there was a lot of talk in Sioux Falls area about that we are the beginning of the Silicon Prairie, that we were going to have a boom based on the internet and web-based franchises. This was going to be entrepreneurship. I don't know if that ever came true. That was supposed to heal brain drain in our state. I don't think it did. I think that was something that we never built on as an ecosystem. And if we couldn't build on it when it was small, and if we still don't know what our terminology is, it makes the rest of us who do know what we had in 2008 that we still have now, and that's our farmers, that's our teachers, that's our law enforcement, that's you guys and whatever you do in your day-to-day and what you did before you were elected. Those things were here in 2008. Those things will be here in another 20 years. But will a hyperscale data center need to be right here? That's what we're all saying no to. That's why so many of us are coming out and just wanting to keep yelling at you, no, 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 and listen to us. And terminology is about to be really, really important. And so we appreciate that you understand us when we speak in layman's terms. We hope that you can counter back to us with more concrete terms. So,
Thank you for your comments. I'm going to first ask if there's anybody that would like to make public comment for items not on our agenda tonight. We did have public comment on the agenda item regarding the data centers. So, yes, yeah, I did. I asked for discussion from the audience.
No, you did not.
Play it back.
That's not true.
That is true.
Let them speak.
Just let
First,
these
I'm going to
people
ask if there's
speak.
anybody that's here that would like to speak to public comment for items that are not on our agenda.
Just let these people
If there is
speak.
nobody that would like to do that, then we'll take a few more people, but we're going to be done with it at 8 o'clock. So come on up.
Yeah, thank you. Tim Arnold, I'm a resident of Harrisburg. I am not actually a resident born and raised here in South Dakota. I am a transplant from the People's Republic of Illinois. Just want to make it very simple here. I agree with everything that Mrs. Jean Childs said up there about the moratorium. I agree with Commissioner Aaron's about the moratorium. And again, we the people.
My name is Susie Pratt. I'm a resident in Lincoln County. I am a member of South Dakota for Data Center Transparency. I come to you as a mom and a community member. First and foremost, I also come representing our over 4,000 members statewide, and we are still growing. We worked hard hand in hand with Let Sioux Falls Vote on the petition to take the rezoning of the Gemini site to a public vote. I would like to formally introduce myself and reiterate that we are not an anti-data center group, although we have members all over the spectrum and do provide an open forum for residents to discuss them. That being said, we do recognize that hyperscale facilities have distinct differences and unique hurdles for municipalities to navigate when compared to your traditional enterprise-level facilities. These hurdles have ultimately become a learning opportunity for communities across the nation. Some of these lessons have been harder learned than others. That being said, we feel that these conversations are a really good start, like you're having tonight. Our coalition would love to offer you any insights and we have gathered over the last year and work with all parties involved to ensure good governance and good community outcomes. Thank you very much.
Hi, my name is Kelsey Hart. I'm from Sioux Falls, Minnehaha County, and I wanted to speak a little bit on the data center. I did speak back in January. I had put in a lot of research at the time regarding the Gemini data center, the energy that it's trying to use, where it's going to get it from. And I put together a document that I provided to a number of you of things we can do, like ordinances we could put in place, conditionary use permits to place on it to ensure that these facilities don't have too large of an impact that it will affect future generations. That's one of my biggest concerns, is affecting the environment so much that we'll have less water. We will have to tap into different aquifers over the years that people may choose to migrate. It could hasten global warming, a number of issues. And there are tons of concerns even besides the environmental concerns. However, I feel like those are the most damaging, potentially long-term, and worth consideration. So if you haven't taken the time to consider what we can put in place to ensure that they're not compromising the next generation's future, then I suggest that we pursue a moratorium to take that time to think of the proper ordinances to put in place to make sure that doesn't happen. For example, are we ensuring that they're not going to drill on their own property to get this water? If they truck in so much water to produce all this 500 megawatts of energy, are we going to have enough for our county and other counties that use the same aquifer around us for generations to come? Or are we going to have to tap into a different aquifer to get those resources at some point in the future? Have we considered that there's going to be potentially, if they use some zero liquid discharge system, some salt cake harmful chemicals that are produced? What are they going to do to safely dispose of that in the future? Like noise concerns, there are technological advancements that have been made to sound absorption barriers that can be used? Is there any ordinances we could put in place to mitigate some of the sound that's created in that community wherever it's built? I just want to suggest that we take the time to consider ordinances like these to make sure that we're not affecting our communities and future generations long-term. Thank you.
Thank you. My name is John Coonery. I live just 3 blocks inside of Minnehaha County from Lincoln. And I believe that what has been spoken here tonight about pausing is absolutely necessary because there are so many unaddressed issues with these hyperscale data centers. We're not talking about traditional data centers that some in here even build and maintain. And this is well documented. It's easy to find. One of the things is these data centers create a tremendous amount of noise, both audible and subaudible, that is continuous. And those noise levels can travel from thousands of feet up to many miles, the low density. And it has been shown that these noise levels can have an impact on people, on children, in rural, on animals. We're an agricultural state. What are the potential impacts to our agriculture, to nearby farms and other types of livestock and wildlife? Some of the things that we know that this can cause are things, and these are peer-reviewed studies, can cause cardiovascular risk from chronic noise exposure, diesel backups, or in some places, Mr. Elon Musk has something like 30 jet engine type turbines that are creating electricity. We don't know yet because this is an NDA that is protecting us from knowing what these data centers are going to be like. Would we have another airport within half a mile of the people in Brandon? I don't think that we should, or other places. I could go into many more things that have to do with health. Also, these types of noise and diesel and other thing has impact on things like pollinators. Without pollinators, we don't have agriculture. Without agriculture, we're not around. Livestock, peer-reviewed science shows that data centers establish, for one thing, animals have a much broader range of what they can hear than humans. And so it's more impactful in some ways to them. It can cause such things as elevated stress hormone, concentrations of cortisol, increased heart and respiratory rates, disputed feedback and breathing behavior, and so forth. And I'm going to cut this real short. There's also EMF radiation. I was only one that I know of that went before the city council voted on this the day of back in January and took EMF radiation of current lines that are out there. And those are currently actually above what is recommended safe for people living nearby. 500 megawatts that is stepped down and then converted over to DC will create a tremendous amount of EMF radiation. That is its own issues. The other thing is these data center developers say they're going to use closed loop. Well, that only takes care of maybe short-term reducing the amount, but it does not prevent, because you may have over 1 million gallons of this coolant in it. It has many toxic chemicals in it, more toxic than what's in your radiators of your car. And because these GPUs, which are high-end versions of CPUs, have to be swapped out maybe every 3 years, if this data center has 350,000 GPUs in it, that means 1/3 of that 1 million to 1.5 million toxic blue has to be treated. It cannot go into the treatment center. So those are the kind of things that must be determined before this is allowed, and I thank you for your time.
Hello, my name is Gail Ray. I live at 1001 West Golden Eagle on the south side of Sioux Falls.
Hi.
Oh, I'm sorry. Do I need to repeat that?
That's entirely up to you, ma'am.
Okay, my name is Gail Ray. I live on the south side of Sioux Falls, 1001 West Golden Eagle Street. The prior speaker had a lot of good information. What I need to know, I have a question. Did the planning and zoning or the commission have anybody that they consulted with about what these data centers are like? Did they bring anyone in to help them?
This is a time for comment, ma'am, not for question and answer.
Okay,
Sorry.
well, if they did not, I just believe that before anything really can be decided, that would be advised. He had a lot of information, and there's a lot more. I spent 30 years as a information systems auditor, and you don't have any idea of how far these data centers go. It's something to be very cautious about, and many communities have been deceived by what they've been told by the people who are building them and running them. For instance, now there hasn't been anything bad come to light yet, but when the ADP data center on the north side of Sioux Falls was brought in, everyone was so happy because it seemed like there were going to be a lot of jobs. But there's only, I think, a handful of people that actually work there. 7? Okay. There was a lot of work when they built it, but all it does is run data. But it's not anywhere near what these big ones will be. And I don't think we want them. I own a small farm. I have control over 70 acres. I am going to protect the land use of my 70 acres through a deed restriction and a farm trust. That's all I can do for 70 acres, but I think we really have to be careful about the future of our land, and these data centers are not it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Doug Ragsdale. I live in Harrisburg. I don't know if anybody in this building's an investor in data center companies or not. I know I'm not. I'm an investor in the community. I pay taxes every time I, buy anything, property taxes, etc. I don't see any positives. I don't see any positives from these data centers. I've seen in Oregon where they've had an increase in miscarriages and an increase in cancer rates. I don't want to see that in our community. And if I'm investing in the community and I see increase in cancer rates and increase in miscarriage, I don't know that I want to continue raising my family here. So that's my 2 cents.
Thank you.
Thank you. George Hahn, Lincoln County resident, 43 years in real estate, and I've developed projects all over the United States for over 45 years. I've researched this very, very carefully. You want to kill your grandparents and inherit early? Do you want to get rid of kids you don't like? Do you have a little child that has some severe problems that require a pacemaker? Just let them stand under a 347,000 kilovolt transmission line for about 4 hours. You will kill them. I wear a pacemaker. In real estate, I have to, under legal and ethical charge, disclose to my clients that the house or the piece of property they are looking at with these god-awful 347 kV transmission lines can kill them. They cause spontaneous abortion. Cows don't give very good milk.
They moved a 20,000 head Carnation dairy 3 miles south of one out in California because they wondered why their milk was all sour. You want to kill people? You want to poison the land? You want to put forever chemicals into our water? You have that opportunity before you. Thank you. Oh, by the way, real estate gets devalued by 20 to 30% within proximate view of those stupid power lines. Enough said.
Rex Keller, 5801 South Tomer Road, Sioux Falls. Just a couple quick points. One is the financial impact of the data centers. All you hear in the financial world nowadays is the next bubble is going to be the data centers. The bailout's going to come from the either federal government or state or local governments to bail these things out. Second point is that we were actually drove by Musk's data center in Memphis, that within a mile of it, we could hear the rumble, and he only had half of his turbines running at that time. And thirdly, I'm with him. I have a pacemaker, and we need to look out for the people with health issues.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
My name's Mitch Marcotte. I'm from Lenox, South Dakota. My background is in computers. I've got 22 years teaching at Southeast Tech College in Sioux Falls, and before that, 5 years working at Gateway 2000, and before that, 5 years working at Radio Shack. I have vast computer experience. Don't boo me yet. I love data centers. I'd love to see what Joel went to see. That would be so cool. I like little data centers, big data centers, but like a gig factory or hyperscale. Well, I think Sturgeon, Alberta, Canada is a good place for one. But when you look at all the numbers and everything that computers get involved with, South Dakota is really not on the map. We're talking about a mute point here. It's not going to happen. To make a data center like above the 10 size, it would take a huge investment. And these data center people are not stupid. They're not going to roll out there and think, oh, we're going to get a tax break, so we're going to go build it here or there. That's not what their concern is. Their concern is whether or not it can be up 24/7 and whether or not it's going to cost them, too much for this or that. If you think about it, they're just big heat factories. They take electricity, they make AI tokens, and they pump out heat. Now, eventually, that's going to evolve into something else where someone comes along and says, I think we could do something with that heat. And data centers will probably change into something else. Now, like I said, I really don't think South Dakota is a good choice for a data center. I mean, based on my experience. Matter of fact, it's on the bottom of the list. It's probably down, of all the states, it's probably like 10 at the bottom. Now, people can sign NDAs and do all these things, and there can be a big hoopla about it and everything, but when it comes down to it, when you look at the technology and what they would have to invest, they're gonna pick what works. They have experts that are way beyond our comprehension when it comes to data centers. They're not gonna take these little bids where some town like Lenox did one. $26,000 study for a data center in Lenox, and it's like, come on, man, don't be dumb. That's like the stupidest thing ever. Waste $26,000. Well, you gotta have a study before you can actually do something about it, but, when you look at from the computer side of things, how they function and what they need, it doesn't matter what kind of money is gonna come out of it. They're going to choose what is best for them, not what is best for you or the community. That's why everybody's upset. It's really obvious. It's like, oh, these data centers, if they were so great, everybody would be doing it, right? A few states have figured it out. They said, okay, build your data center, you're going to have to pay for everything. And we're not going to give you any tax breaks. And if you use too much power, we're going to charge you extra, and that money is going to go back to the community. Now, there's like 2 or 3 states that did that. You know, no one's paying attention to them. No one's talking about those plans. Why? Because it really didn't turn out the best for the data centers, you know. They are getting dinged on stuff. But that's my point here. And then, you know, the NDA thing. Joel, if you sign an NDA, can you discuss with me, Joel? No. Can you discuss with me about that NDA? No. So I'm separate, I'm isolated, correct?
Public
Interesting.
comment.
So that would be a private conversation you had with him, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Does that fall on under any type of public terminology? Just the word public? Think about it. Well, that's all I got.
Madam Chair,
Go ahead.
we set I'm not going to be very popular, okay, so you can boo me. But we set a date to listen to the pros and cons, and I have heard now, if we continue on with this, I don't know that we need to set a date to hear this. We got other business to take care of that's very important, that's going to be critical to the future of our county. So you set a time limit at 8 o'clock, you gave them 5 extra minutes. I say we cut it off and we move on.
Agreed,
It's
Commissioner.
no wonder why you lost your seat.
Agreed,
It's because
Commissioner.
of that attitude and that attitude.
I didn't lose a seat, ma'am. I chose not to run.
Can I get a motion to adjourn, please? Motion from Lincoln County to adjourn.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Oh, I'd like to hear more people speak.
Is there a second on the motion?
Yes.
Got a motion and a second. Will you call the roll, please?
Commissioner Putnam?
No.
Schmidt?
Yes.
Aaron's?
No.
Otten?
Aye.
Landine?
Yes, we are
Lackey
adjourned.
votes.
City Council, is there a motion to adjourn, or if there's not a motion to adjourn, we stay in the meeting?
Could you repeat the date you set for us to continue this?
The fourth Tuesday of October, I believe, is the language of the amendment.
Last Tuesday,
Sorry, last
And
Tuesday.
that'll be an evening meeting, correct?
Yep,
7 PM.
there it is.
All right, seeing no
I
mo,
can speak
seeing no
if they
mo,
want. then.
Commissioner, we're in the middle of the city council meeting now.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
I'd like to make a motion that we stay open and if there are people here that want to speak.
Yeah.
There's not a motion from the city council to adjourn. This time, city council will remain in session. If allowed for public input, the city council's rules is 3 minutes a person for public input.
Thank you. You guys, seriously, not to her though. So I'm gonna go back to what Jem said. You brought up what our Mayor Christine Erickson, some of the stuff that she said.
Yeah.
I actually met with her the day before she was sworn in at the downtown library. And one of the other things she said is that data centers should not be near cities. Did she say that to you?
The mayor, are you
Yes.
talking about? No,
Yes.
I was just repeating what she said
I'm gonna ask
publicly.
the commission to refrain from comments at this time. This is the city's portion of the
Okay,
meeting.
and then I'm also gonna say, so, there was a League of Women Voters Forum, during, when everyone was campaigning, and there's several city councilors that were at that. I very much would appreciate, and I'm sure everyone in this room would appreciate that you guys all remember what you guys told the community you would do. That there needs to be more regulations on these data centers. And I know my parents raised me, my stepdad was an electrician for almost 45 years, and I lost my stepdad during that campaign season. And everyone probably knows I ran for city council, and I still kept going. My stepdad was a man of his word, and I know there's a few of you up here that still, you guys are men of your word, and I ask you to keep your word to us.
Thank you for your input. Next member of the public, 3 minutes.
Hi, good evening. Caitlin Music from Sioux Falls. I just want to say thank you to the Sioux Falls City Council for hearing our input and for being respectful while we provide feedback to you. I actually am not going to make a comment on data centers. I'm just really appreciative to have such an incredible city councilor. Thank you.
Chester DeYoung, Sioux Falls. Thank you guys for the amount of work you put into this, the amount of time. I know everybody has other jobs. So this here job is for the city, for the communities, for the county. It's not, you're not here for yourselves, you're for somebody else. You guys can only do so much. You can put regulations in about data centers or any other thing you want to vote for. But what it comes down to is the enforcement of that information, what the rules you put into place. If you don't have city officials that are willing to abide by what you guys are agreeing to, doing stuff under the table, voting things in, sneaking it in, and then trying to sneak it in all the way through till the very end, and then you're sort of like, oh, we're stuck with something that we didn't know we were doing. We didn't want this. You can only do so much. You guys do a very good job with what you're doing. Sometimes it's somebody that you have no control over that tries to run the show, and it may not be what you're looking for. Thank you.
Bethany Eric, rural Lincoln County, 46747 291st Street. I believe I speak for a number of people that are here today that appreciate the City Council's willingness to hear us as we describe, the fears that we have. Thank you for listening. I think a lot of us came at the behest of Joel Aaron's promise of transparency. And I do have to say I'm very disappointed in a current council for our commission that they did not seem to think that was valuable. So, and that's not on the city commission, or city councilors, but it's very apparent who voted which way. And that says volumes, and our voters will not forget that. I am very appreciative of those that are willing to take the time to hear and understand exactly what we fear for our communities. And I hope that you'll continue to listen with open minds, open hearts, understanding that these guys, these corporations, are pretty good at what they do. You may be good, but I bet they're better. So be aware, be conscientious, and vote according to how the people that elected you are asking you to vote. And that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other members wish to address the council? Council, I will entertain a motion to adjourn at this time.
So moved. Spelberg.
Second, Siggety.
Been a motion by Spellerberg, second by Siggety to adjourn. Any discussion or debate? Seeing none, all in favor of adjourning, say aye.
Aye.
Opposition, same sign. That has passed. We are adjourned.
We'll call the meeting to order. Please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, welcome to our Tuesday, August 25th, 2026 evening meeting. Can we get a motion to approve our agenda? If anybody wants anything on the removed from consent on the commission.
So moved on the agenda, Madam Chair.
Okay. Is there a second? Second. Got a motion and a second. Will you call the roll, please? Commissioner Putnam? Commissioner Putnam?
I guess I didn't look through it yet, so I'm still looking. Go on.
Oh. Schmidt?
Yes.
Aaron's?
Yes.
Otten?
Aye.
Landon? Yes. Motion carries. Next, we need a motion on our consent agenda this evening. Can I get a motion, please?
So moved, Madam Chair.
Is there a second?
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Alicia, will you call the roll? Commissioner Putnam?
Yes, I'm still reading. So just go on.
Schmidt?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Putnam, you're just reading the agenda for the meeting now? How many days ago was this sent to you? So are you saying that you haven't, are you saying?
Goddamn mouth shut.
Are you saying you haven't read any of the information then in the email that was sent to you with the packet and the agenda?
We do
not swear in this thing, in this.
Well, then.
All right,
keep your mouth-
Commissioner Otten had the floor. Commissioner Otten had the floor. Commissioner Schmidt, go ahead.
Yes, on the motion for the consent agenda.
Thank you. Aaron's,
Yes.
Otten,
Aye.
Landine.
Yes, motion carries.
Madam Chair, I apologize to the public for the unprofessional idea and the cursing in this room. It is totally unprofessional and uncalled for.
And I concur.
Thank you, Commissioner Schmidt.
It's
We're gonna move
unprofessional to not
on
let the
to,
public speak
we're
as
gonna
well.
move on to regular business. We have our second reading and public hearing for an ordinance imposing a county gross receipts tax and use tax for Lincoln County, South Dakota. Commissioner Schmidt, do you wanna tee that up for us, please?
This is the tax that was passed by the state legislature. Sorry, thank you, Scott. Sometimes I think I talk too loud, but apparently not loud enough. Anyway, this was a tax, as you all know, that was passed by the state legislature, which allows counties to invoke a half-cent sales tax, and which revenue that is generated from that particular revenue source goes directly to lower property taxes on owner-occupied buildings. So this is the first process to pass this particular item, to get this on so that if the public chooses to want to refer it, they can. Now, you have many counties that have passed this already, and some have recommended that it is referred, and they have helped refer it, and some counties have chosen to let the public refer it themselves. So first off, I would just like to make the motion that we pass this and move on so that we can let the public decide what it is they would want to do. Refer this and have it to a public vote, entire county, or that they're content with the fact that whatever revenue is generated from this half-cent sales tax will go to lower property taxes.
This is a public hearing. Is there anyone else that was gonna present on this tonight?
Yeah, Michael Howdushell from the Department of Revenue is on.
Okay,
Okay,
can we get him up?
Michael.
Mr. Howdy Shell, can you hear us?
I can. Good evening. Can you hear me?
I can. Go ahead.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Good evening, everybody, commissioners. My name is Mike Howdyshell. I'm the Cabinet Secretary of the South Dakota Department of Revenue. I appreciate the opportunity to visit with you a little bit this evening about your proposed ordinance to adopt a local option sales tax there in Lincoln County. I have been talking to a lot of county commissions across the state about Senate Bill 96 that was passed this last legislative session, and answering questions that commissioners may have about the implementation of a county sales tax and how it would work mechanically. I did have just a couple of slides with the commission's permission. I know we're kind of getting late into the evening here, but I could certainly just quickly walk through a few things, and that may spur some questions. Is that okay?
It is.
Okay, I'm going to share my screen here. Okay, hopefully you can see my screen.
We can.
Okay, just kind of real quick, just a little bit of an overview of the property tax relief package that was passed by the legislature this last legislative session. Obviously, Senate Bill 96, which is the topic tonight, that was Governor Roden's proposal to allow counties to impose a up to half cent sales tax that has to be dedicated to owner-occupied property tax relief. The other proposal that I do want to talk about was Senate Bill 245, which was enacted. What that bill does is it dedicates additional revenue to the state aid to education formula to lower the levies for the school districts for owner-occupied properties. And the way that that's being funded, at least initially, is with a transfer from the state reserve funds to a newly created property tax relief fund at the state level of $56 million that will be used to provide immediate property tax relief for the 2027 tax year. And then ongoing, the relief will be paid for with the state sales tax, which is scheduled to go back up to 4.5%, starting on July 1 of 2027. So if you recall, back in 23, the legislature temporarily reduced the state sales tax to 4.2%, but there was a sunset provision on that. It's scheduled to go back up to 4.5% here this next year, and any of the additional revenue that's generated from that increase is going to go to lower school taxes for all owner-occupied properties in the state. So that is an automatic deal. The county commission doesn't need to take any action. All owner-occupied properties in the house will receive a reduction. It's a rather significant reduction. On a $325,000 house, it's about a $550 savings on your school taxes that you'll pay going forward. But what I'm here to talk primarily about is Senate Bill 96 and your ordinance that you have before you. And I'm going to just kind of skip through some of these slides, but I did want to talk about the timeline, which is important to understand how Senate Bill 96 works. So the law went into effect on July 1st. At this time, counties can start the discussions and enact the ordinances that's required to impose the tax. As Commissioner Schmidt mentioned, we have a handful of counties now that have enacted the ordinance. As of today, there are 7 counties that have enacted the ordinance. In one of those counties, in Cottington County, there was a citizen referendum taken out, and they did get the signatures to refer it to a vote. So at least in one county, it's going to go to a public vote in November. Just today, we had Lawrence County and Clay County pass the second reading of their ordinance. And so at this point, there's 3 counties for sure, Meade County, Pennington, and Custer County, where they're past the referral deadline in those counties. And in those 3 counties, the county sales tax will go into effect on January 1st. The earliest that the tax can go into effect is January 1st, 2027. If you were to pass the ordinance tonight, and if it was not referred, it would start on January 1st of 2027. If it were to be referred and have to go to a vote and ultimately approved by the voters, because of the timing and the notice requirements of the legislation, the county would not be able to start collecting the tax until July 1st of 2027. At the Department of Revenue, we need at least 90 days notice prior to the tax going into effect, and it can only go into effect on January 1st and July 1st, which is identical to how the municipal sales tax currently works. I did want to just talk a little bit about implementation costs. So as part of the legislation, the county is allowed to keep a portion of the revenues to pay for any implementation, any software upgrades you need to make. The first year, the county can keep up to 2% of any of the revenue that's generated. And then in subsequent years, up to $20,000 can be retained for administrative costs. Really, the biggest administrative cost, I think, up front for the county is going to be the change to the tax bill and the accounting side on the back end in the auditor's office. The law requires that a credit is shown on the tax bill, so the property owners can see
how much their property tax was reduced because of the sales tax. And we've already been working with the software vendors that provide these software solutions to the counties. We've had several meetings already. I think they're generally on track to be ready to go on January 1st of this next year to be able to start showing this credit on the tax bill. This is just an example of what the tax bill would look like if you were to do this. It is not a reduction in the levy. So as far as the levy that's set by the county auditor every year to generate the property tax revenue that the county needs, that process will happen just like it does today. So in this example, the county levy is 3.8 mils. And how the relief is provided is through the credit that I talked about. So what will happen is that the county will either know how much money has come in from the local option sales tax and provide a credit, a percentage reduction to the tax bill for all owner-occupied properties, or you could also use an estimate of what you're anticipating to collect to provide this credit. But it shows up as a line item on the tax bill. So in this example, the county taxes on this owner-occupied property would have been $884.81. Because of the county sales tax, the credit that's applied is $707.85. So the total property taxes that's due to the county on this particular example would be $176.96. Obviously, this is an example. This credit varies in amount depending on how much revenue you generate and how much property tax that you need from owner-occupied properties. So one of the most frequent questions that I've received from counties is, what is the timing of this credit? So there's a couple of different options, and I just want to kind of highlight those. The first option is if you were to start this tax, let's say on January 1st of 27, you could essentially collect the money for a full year, build up a balance in the property tax reduction fund, which you're required to create at the county levy level if you do this. And then you would essentially have a balance, and you would know how much money you would have available for the credit on the 28 tax bill. That'd be one option. The second option, and this is actually the one that I think I would prefer to see counties do, and what I would encourage counties to do, is to use the estimates that we've provided for how much revenue this would generate in the county and provide a credit in the first year. So again, in this example, if this tax were to start on January 1st of 27, we believe that our estimates are solid. In particular, the estimates from the revenue generated within the municipalities in the county. Those are actual numbers that we have from the municipal sales tax receipts. So we can help you estimate with a lot of certainty how much revenue this would generate from purchases within municipalities within the county. And so at least for the first year, we would advise that you give at least a partial credit based on that estimate, and then in year two and going forward, once you have some collection history, you can definitely increase that credit to be able to take advantage of all of the additional revenue that will come in from the sales tax. This slide, and this is the last slide I have here, just talks about the flow of the money. So just like the city sales tax, the Department of Revenue will collect this revenue. It'll be reported by the retailers on their sales tax return that they already file with the department. And so right along with the state and the municipal sales tax, they would report the county sales tax as well. We would collect that money, and then we would distribute it back to the county twice a month. That's what we do with the municipalities. So there would be cash flow coming into the county property reduction fund twice a month if you were to do this. Once the money is in the property tax reduction fund, the county auditor would either transfer the monies into the county general fund, to basically replace the property taxes that were credited on the tax bill, or to the extent that you have tax increment financing districts, if there's owner-occupied properties within a TIF district, they would also receive the credit. So to account for the reduced revenue flowing to the TIF fund, some of this money would have to be transferred into the TIF fund as well. We will certainly work with the county auditors to help them get this set up so the money is flowing properly. Just one last thing here, and I'll stop my presentation. We did prepare a document that you can find on our website on that address. Hopefully some of you have already had a chance to look at this. This provides all of the implementation requirements, all the timelines that I've talked about here. It gives details on what the payment looks like as far as the remittances that the department would make back to the county. We do have the sample ordinance. I know that you guys have an ordinance that you've prepared and are considering tonight. And then some contact information if you move forward and have any questions about implementation.
Mike, have you
Okay, I am gonna.
Mike, have you looked at the ordinance that we have on our agenda?
I actually have not. I apologize for that. I did not look at it, but basically, for our purposes, as long as the ordinance clearly authorizes the county to impose the tax and what the rate is, and creates the property tax reduction fund at the local level, that's pretty much all that we require. Some of the counties have put additional items in their ordinance regarding like the implementation costs, those types of things. That's fine. It's your ordinance, but as long as it clearly authorizes the county to impose the tax, it meets the purposes that we have.
Thank you.
Mr. Secretary, good evening. Joel Aaron's
Good
here.
evening.
Couple questions. Well, comment first. So there's been a lot of discussion about this issue of being able to have the voters vote on this in order to implement it, which is not in the existing law. And instead, the only way to put this to a public vote is the citizens have to sign a petition and get 2,000, in Lincoln County's case, get 2,000 or more signatures, et cetera, if they want to put it to a public vote. In fact, and I won't name which county this is, but one county commission chairman told me that they're just going to put it up to a vote anyway.
I know which one that is.
And I'm not going to say who they are.
I might.
However, with that said, and maybe you've heard that too, Mr. Secretary, I don't know. But the reason I bring that up is I want to first ask the following question. Is the governor's administration, and I get it, there's an election coming up, but is there any appetite or willingness on the part of Governor Roden to amend this law to allow implementation to occur pursuant to a direct election as opposed to commissioners voting on it and then having the public refer it? And I'll pause for your answer.
Yeah, Commissioner, I appreciate the question. It's a good question. And, you know, I guess my answer would be, I think that if the legislature were to amend Senate Bill 96, the existing law now is codified at 1052B, I believe, to allow county commissioners to directly refer to a vote, I think that's something that the administration would support. I can tell you that during the legislative session, there was a lot of discussion about that, and in fact, I think that was really the intent of the legislation. It was only after the fact that there were some questions about whether or not the authority was expressly stated to allow the county commission to directly refer it. So I think to the extent that, the administration would be on board with an effort to clarify, the existing law to allow direct referral, I think that would be the case.
And thank you for that response. Very helpful. It's an important part of the dialogue, not only here, but across the state, to talk about that. I believe Governor Roden, when he gave his speech or comments, testimony to the legislature, if I recall correctly, and if I'm misstating this, please let me know, but I believe he made some reference to that being a part of the intent of the legislation that he signed. Next question I have, sir, is this issue of option 1 or option 2 on the tax credit portion. We have not delineated that in our ordinance here. I assume, is it your implementation guidance that, basically you pass this ordinance now, and if our ordinance is silent as to the issue of option 1 or option 2, then we have to circle back as a commission and readdress that? And I'll pause there.
So, yeah, so I would say yes. If the ordinance is enacted, and it looks like it's going to go into effect on January 1st, the commission would need to decide how you want to implement the credit. Whether that's, again, waiting until pay 28 to do so, or, looking at the estimates that the department has generated and determining, what a conservative year 1 credit could be. But yes, that would be something that I would say, and most of the counties, as far as I know, that's something that they're going to take up under consideration after the ordinance has been enacted.
Yeah.
So there is a little bit of time there. Obviously, the tax bills, don't generally get run until the end of the year. They don't have to go out to the taxpayers until January 1st. So there's a little bit of time to figure out that aspect of the implementation.
So the department's guidance is just make sure the selection of that option takes place before January 1st, is that correct?
That is correct. So, as part of our normal processes when it comes to property taxes, we work very closely with the county auditors to certify all of the property tax levies, to ensure that the budgets that are adopted by the counties and the other taxing districts are in compliance with state law. This will just be one more of those checks that we already do. And so if it's the commission's desire to provide a credit in 27, we will work with the county auditor to determine what the credit needs to be and how to properly apply that on the tax bill this next year.
Mike, if we were going to do this, there's the cost of implementation. We'd still need to have an expenditure in our budget for that, even if we thought we were going to get the revenue. Have there been any cost estimates for any of the counties on what this is going to actually cost to implement?
Sure. I have not heard specifically from any of the counties or the vendors what they anticipate this is going to cost. I do know, in some counties, and I don't know, what vendor, you're on there, but I know in some counties, a lot of these contracts, some of the kind of the legislative implementation type work is either built into the existing contract that you have, and it's just part of the ordinary service agreement that you have with your contract, but that would be obviously something for you to determine there and what that looks like with your vendor. But yes, if it's going to be, an expenditure from that first year revenue, you may want to look at doing that as part of your budget process.
Thank you.
Mike, Jim Schmidt, Say, Mike, I've read where some of the estimates that the state has come up with for Lincoln County is in the neighborhood of $13 million. So if I understand what you're saying, if we were to adopt this and we were to use the state estimates, our auditor could conceivably look at the $13 million and apply that to tax reduction for owner-occupied real estate taxes, correct?
So that's correct, with one caveat. If you're going to provide a credit based on the estimates, I would recommend only looking at the municipal estimate that we've come up with. And I'll just explain that for the commission's benefit. So when we generated the estimates, we basically had to look at it a couple of different ways. We had to look at all of the taxable sales within the municipalities within the county. And those are solid numbers because those are based on actual returns that are filed within the municipalities as reported by all the retailers operating in the county. And so that's a really solid number. For outside the municipalities, we don't have super good data because retailers aren't required to report to us when a sale is made in rural Lincoln County, for instance. They just pay the state sales tax, but we don't necessarily know that that sale occurred outside of the city limits of Canton there, for instance. So what we did for the rural areas is we took the total taxable sales across the entire state minus the taxable sales within the municipalities, and then the difference we allocated to each county on a per capita basis. We fully admit that there's there's definitely some drawbacks to that approach. There are likely some counties where that overstates the rural taxable sales, but there's other counties where it probably understates the rural sales. So at least for the initial year, if you're going to use an estimate, I would rely just on the taxable sales that are made within the municipalities. And even then, maybe hedge a little bit and don't do 100% of what you think you're going to generate from within the cities, but maybe 80% or 90% until you've got some reporting history and a little more confidence going forward in what that credit is and what you can afford.
Thank you.
All right, any other questions from the commission right now?
Sure.
Yep, go ahead, Commissioner Otten.
Mr. Secretary, Commissioner Otten, just to go back to the conversation about referring the vote to the public, and I've read the statute, it's quite clear that as I read it, that we cannot automatically refer that to the voters. So I'm kind of curious of how this other county, and I'm familiar with which one it is, how they are going about doing that, and then the repercussions of that. I mean, my preference would be to send it to the public and let them vote on it right away too, but that's not the way I read the statute. If you care to chime in on that, Mr. Secretary.
Sure, Commissioner Otten, I appreciate the question. I guess I don't know for sure, what they're basing that decision on. And I guess I have not heard for sure that a county has done that. Maybe they have. I have not heard that. Again, it goes back to really the question is, does it fall within, the authority of the county commission to refer an ordinance directly to a vote? When it comes to opt-outs, there is specific language in the statute that says that any taxing district, if they make an opt-out decision, they can refer that directly to a vote. So it really comes down to a question of whether or not the county commission has the authority. If they were to have that authority, does it need to be express authority, or could it fall within under the implied authority of the commission? Really, those are kind of legal questions, and I know that several states' attorneys have taken the position that it needs to be express authority for the commission to be able to do that. But I don't know if that's the case in all counties, and to the extent that some are deciding to put it directly to the vote, I guess that'll just have to play out, and we'll see kind of where those end up.
Thank you.
Other commissioners have questions? All right, if not, this is a public hearing. So first we'll hear from proponents of the ordinance. Anybody in the audience want to come up that is in favor of the ordinance? If none, any opposed? All right, if not, then we will close testimony and any discussion amongst the commission.
I want to propose the following. First part is, I want to propose that the legislature clarify the law and allow a public vote on a tax increase. It's number one. Number two, I'll just be very clear on this. I do support it. I believe in the economics of it. The reason I'm saying that is because I'm not trying to dodge a vote. What I'm trying to do is give the public an opportunity to vote on the tax increase. So what I would propose is that I'm just thinking out loud. This is just for discussion. This is not a motion. For example, we could pass it on the contingency that the legislature clarifies. Governor Roden said in his testimony that he thought this was going to be able to be referred to a vote of the public. I've reviewed the law myself. You cannot refer this to a vote of the public. It would get struck down in a heartbeat. I want to give the opportunity to the governor to put forward to the legislature to clarify this, to come into compliance with his intent. And so I would support this, contingent upon the governor doing that, and then we have a public vote on it. And then the public can vote on it. Now, to the merits of the issue, to the merits. You would have to expend an incredible amount of personal spending in order to even equate into the savings that you'll achieve as a homeowner. Most of us, can't speak for everyone, we will not spend more money by increasing our personal expenditures in 1 year. They will never come close to the savings that you would achieve from the homeowner reduction that the normal homeowner will see. Additionally, I have significant concerns in this economy, especially with the issue being affordability of doing this. There's a lot of people out there, they don't own homes. And I think it was about a year ago, Governor Roden invited a bunch of elected local officials to a meeting. It was at the new Sioux Falls, the government center, whatever they call that now. Bunch of city councilors, county commissioners. I was there for Lincoln County. And I have to give the governor credit. He sat there and he listened to every single person. And I was sitting right next to him, to his right, so I was the last person. And I said, Governor, it's a tax shift. It's not a tax cut. And I said, I get it. When you work with the legislature, it's about the art of the possible. It's not ideal. It's not perfect. It's not what I would have done. So I give the governor, I commend him for working with the legislature to get the most relief passed that he could get. Because let me tell you, earlier this year, I held 3 town halls, Harrisburg, Sioux Falls, and And we talked about the property tax issue. Number one issue, hands down. Property taxes, data centers, property taxes, data centers, property taxes, data centers. That's what people were all talking about. You knock on doors for the campaigns and all of that. What are you doing about my property taxes, Aaron's? What are you doing? Now, I understand some opponents have said, well, it's a regressive tax, going to increase taxes on those who can least afford it. I'm sensitive to that issue. It will affect everyday expenditures. And it will shift tax relief to homeowners, who by and large are better off. But I want those same people, I want young people who are having a hard time getting into homes to be able to have an easier time getting into a house. I want the elderly and disabled to have an easier time to be able to afford their house, so they don't have to rent their house from the government, so to speak, as bad as what they currently do. Additionally, for those potential sales tax payers who don't own a home, what I would say to you is you still use county services. Still use the sheriff, still use the roads, treasurer's office, auditor's office, all that. So that's where I'm at on the merits and the substance of this. I had one gentleman who I know very well earlier who said, blood's not going to pop out of your eyes if you have to vote for that tax increase tonight, is it? And I assured him I would do my best to prevent that from happening. But that's why I wanted to tell the people where I'm at on the merits of the issue, so they know that what my intention is with regard to wanting to give the legislature an opportunity to clarify. So number one, they know where I'm at. But number two, the larger issue for me, above and beyond property tax relief, there's only one larger issue, and that's the democratic process. That's when you propose a tax increase, the public ought to be able to have the final say on that. So that's my comments. Thank you.
Other commissioners care to have the floor?
Madam Chair,
Go ahead, Commissioner Schmidt.
I don't find fault, Joel, with anything you said, except I want clarification. So if we pass this and the legislature does not decide to clarify or it doesn't get through, does that mean that we're not able to implement this particular measure?
No, we could still implement.
But you'd like to have it, that make it known that you would like to have the governor change his, to put this so it could be direct to the people.
Yeah, I mean, let's just be honest, Commissioner. This is not hyperbole. Governor Roden legitimately thought,
Yes.
mistakenly, but with pure intent, that this was going to a vote of the people.
In
Well,
fact,
the lawyers get a hold of it, and what happens?
in fact, Commissioner, I think you were the first one to recognize, Commissioner Aaron's, I'm going to pay you a compliment, so you better
be quiet.
You better be quiet. And I know that's hard. I know that's hard sometimes. And if you think it's hard for you to listen, how much it is for me to say this. But anyway.
Can you speak into my lapel, please?
I would agree, he thought that this thing was going to go directly to the people. I testified twice on this thing, and it was the intent of the legislature to get it this way. But when the law was actually written, it was a hiccup. So, for example, Clay County just passed this, and Clay County passed it with the caveat that they're recommending that it be referred to the people immediately, and the commissioners, even there, said they would help pass the petitions. So it isn't trying to bypass the thing, it's kind of a awkward situation. But I would certainly like to see this implemented, and if it means that we have to carry papers and get signatures, so be it. I would like to see all 70-some thousand people, or how many voters we have, vote on this critical issue.
Thank you, Commissioner. Any other commissioners?
Madam Chair.
Go ahead, Commissioner Otten.
So surprisingly, the attorney commissioner next to me agrees to the reading of the statute that it is not referable to the people. And I think we've established that. I preferred that it would go to the people, but also realizing with some of what Commissioner Aaron says, there's no guarantee that the legislature will make a change to that bill next year. They're not behooving to do so. There's nothing forcing them to do it, so it may stay exactly the way it is. And that's how it works. So I'm having a problem not doing this now, and I'm in favor of it being referred. If somebody pulls the petitions, I'll sign it. So, but if it goes to the legislature, if they do make a change, it's not going to go into effect until July 1st of next year. I mean, we're just about a year away for this happening. So I guess I'm going to support it, and if it gets referred, I'll be more than happy to sign the petition.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Putnam, any comments and discussion?
No.
Okay, I would agree. Commissioner Schmidt and I are on the South Dakota Association of County Commission Board, and when this was originally presented and throughout session, we always were under the impression or led to believe that this was going to be a direct referral. So I think something did get missed, obviously. And I agree with Commissioner Aaron's on his take on how there's no way you're going to make up the savings that you will get if we pass this ordinance, at least for the owner-occupied homeowners. So I'll be supporting this as well. So with that, is there a motion?
I would so move to adopt this ordinance as presented with a half-cent, the ordinance imposing a county half-cent gross receipts tax, use tax for Lincoln County, South Dakota, as written in our minutes.
All right, is there a second?
Second.
I've got a motion and a second. If there's no further discussion, Alicia, will you call the roll?
Commissioner Putnam?
No.
Schmidt?
Yes.
Aaron's?
No.
Otten?
Aye.
Landine?
Yes, motion carries. Next, we will have a public hearing pursuant to SDCL 72122 for the purpose of adopting the following supplements to the 2026 budget. Supplement to General Fund for the Poor Relief Department, account 1014411429440 in the amount of $136,319. Two settlements approved indigent medical claims pursuant to SDCL 2813, passed on 6/22/26, 2606-18, full board approved. A supplement increasing rural fire fund account 211-4221-499-110. This is a pass-through account fund that should have been expended in December of 2025, were paid from 2026. A supplement increasing the domestic violence fund account 229-4434-499-200 in the amount of $4,950. This is a pass-through account with excess funds that should be sent out. This is a public hearing. Is staff available on this agenda item? If there is no staff.
Yep, I'm here.
Okay.
I'm here, sorry, I was just unmuting my Zoom.
Okay.
Sherry, the Lincoln County Auditor. Yes, as you stated in the title, this is a public hearing to request an increase in the budget authority for the three specific accounts. These adjustments are necessary to align the county's budget authority with funds that are either already available or expenditures that have previously been approved. On the requested action for the rural fire, I did not put the dollar amount, but the dollar amount that I would need in the requested action is $57,555. What happened with that one is we had disbursements that should have been done in December of 2025. They were not done until January, so it throws the 26 budget out of whack, but the money was not spent in December of 2025, if that makes sense. The domestic violence, we are collecting more, unfortunately, funds in the domestic violence pass-through account. So what I'd like to do is request an additional $4,500 to be spent to the Family Visitation Center. The remaining of the $4,950 would be the $450 that would be retained by the county as an administrative fee. In total, the requested increase in the budget authority is $198,824. These adjustments provide the necessary budget authority to properly account for approved expenditures and available pass-through funds. Does anybody have any questions?
Commissioners have any questions? All right, this is a public hearing. Are there any proponents for the supplement that would like to come up? Any opponents? All right, if there are none, then I'll close testimony. And any commission discussion? If not, can I get a motion, please?
Madam Chair, move for approval.
I've got a motion to approve the supplements to the 2026 budget. Is there a second?
Second.
Got a motion and a second. That includes the 57,555 for rural fire. All right,
Yes.
Commissioner Otten, yes.
I'm sorry.
We just didn't have the amount on the notice, so the 57,555.
For rural fire.
Got a motion and a second. If there's no further discussion, will you call the roll, please?
Commissioner Putnam?
No.
Schmidt?
Yes.
Aaron's?
Yes.
Otten?
Aye.
Landine?
Yes, motion carries. Next item on our agenda is a second reading and public hearing. An ordinance of Lincoln County, South Dakota, amending the Code of Ordinances of the county by amending Chapter 154 zoning, Section 154.058Z, conditional uses, A1 agricultural district, and Section 154.178P, conditional uses, RC recreation conservation district for the regulation of building eligibility transfers. Toby, good evening.
Good evening, Madam Chair, Commissioners. Toby Brown, representing County Planning and Zoning Department. This item before you this evening is an amendment to the text of the zoning regulation, specifically Chapter 154. I'll get a little bit into kind of the details of it, but this would be amending the A1 Agricultural Zoning District and the RC Recreation Conservation Zoning District for the regulations of building eligibility transfers. I'll get to that part right there. So in August of 1995, the county established density zoning. The requirement that you would have one per quarter would be allowed for development of a single-family dwelling on it. Also in 1995, with the adoption of that provision, the zoning ordinance was amended to allow the transfer of building eligibility. So again, in a sense, they're locked in at one per quarter or a lot of record. So there was a provision in the ordinance that allowed that to be transferred from one parcel to another parcel. There was a standard put in place with that had to be contiguous to the property, so it had to touch in order to move the property, and also had to have the same ownership. So the same owner on both sides of the property that be transferred to. So over the years, we've gone through this process. What I would say is that the first step to that would be the same ownership. It is a level of bureaucracy that probably hasn't served its purpose. The intent of the elected officials to allow it to be transferred from one property to the other property is negated with the fact that we require it to have the same ownership with it. So the way we've accomplished that over the years is, some people call it a workaround, but it's legal in the aspect that we would have that property quitclaim deed or be platted out and parcel to it. The quitclaim deed does require legal counsel to assist the property owners to establish that document or that requirement. So it is, in my opinion, it's a burden on that applicant to go through that process. It takes time, it takes effort. The process that the Planning Commission's gone through to get to this point with the recommended ordinance is approximately about 7.5 months. We've been working with property owners for about the same time to get to the same ownership requirement, to make sure that it meets the muster of the requirements registered or filed in the Registered Deeds Office. So again, that would be the main requirement that the Planning Commission wanted to address. As they open it up, this ordinance amendment to public input, a number of citizens had issue with the requirement that it be transferred to contiguous property. And so as you recall, the Planning Commission did recommend to you for you to be remanded, that there would be two options. The first option would be that it be remain contiguous, remove the same ownership. The other option would be to take away the same ownership, but allow it to be transferred within the same township. Ultimately, after a public hearing that the Planning Commission had, they did recommend option number 2, or essentially what's before you, is to allow that transfer to be within the same township. So that does change the standard from what it currently is right now. Highly restrictive, they can only move from one parcel to an adjoining parcel. This would allow some greater transfer within the county or within that same township. And throughout the 7 months, there was a lot of testimony from the township officials. We also did receive some comments from the municipalities that were concerned with the idea of allowing transfer unlimited throughout the county. They wanted to make sure that there was some guardrails or some standards in place for that. So what the Planning Commission recommended after public input was to change it so that it could be transferred within the same township. So again, I would say it's a middle ground. So right now, the restriction of same contiguous property as opposed to allowing it anywhere transferred within the county, the middle ground would be within the same township with it, which is what the Planning Commission recommended. There is some minor modifications of language as far as suitability of the building or the building site. There was also public comment that there's language in there now where the minimum lot size would be an acre, but it can be increased by the Planning Commission. So some of the public felt that was maybe an overreach on that, so that was removed. As well as item number 6 was the right to farm notice covenant. So along with building eligibility creation in 1995, there was a provision put in the ordinance that any time that we issue a building permit for a single-family dwelling, that there's a right to farm notice covenant that's filed with the deed of the property before staff can issue a building permit. I always get a lot of questions or comments on that. Again, what I would state is it's just a notification that you're living out in the agricultural area. It doesn't take away anyone's rights. It doesn't take away anyone's ability to protest or to argue about proposed development or proposed development next to them. It's just a requirement, a notification that they're going to be experiencing some negative aspects of living in the agricultural area. So the reason why we wanted to add that in there is because, again, it is a prerequisite already. It's just we want to be transparent and make sure that when applicants applying at this stage for the transfer, the eligibility, that they know that they're going to have to sign that covenant on there. Plus, it's just a requirement to staff to ensure that we complete that requirement as well at that level of the ordinance. So again, the Planning Commission did invest about 7.5 months in the development of this ordinance. Feel that the transfer requirements would be lessened with this requirement. But there would also be greater opportunity for the transfer of the building eligibility. So to allow other properties, instead of trying to work with your adjoining property owners, you'd have greater opportunity to work with other property owners within the same township to obtain those eligibilities, to move those eligibilities. There's also a number of occasions within the county where there's limited development on some of the parcels. So it does allow us, if someone has complete floodplain within their property, it allows greater flexibility and opportunity for some of those landowners to transfer within the same township. But I think, again, is that a number of the Planning Commission felt that this was really a standard that wouldn't open it up completely, that could potentially have some unintended consequences. A number of the municipalities reached out to us, had concern about that, transferring within their growth areas and their growth development areas, overriding their subdivision regulations and things like that. So again, I think this was kind of the compromise or the middle ground of what the Planning Commission decided upon. But with that, Madam Chair, I'll turn it back to you. Gladly answer your questions of the board. Otherwise, this is a second reading public hearing for this item.
Toby, do you have the Planning Commission vote? I see it was 3, 2, and 1.
Correct.
Do you have who voted what on it by chance?
The abstention was Commissioner Scott.
Okay.
So at the public hearing, there was a public comment that the board shouldn't be voting if they have an eligibility. So he chose to abstain because of that comment, I guess.
Okay.
But I believe it was Commissioner Mosier and Commissioner Sweeter that voted in opposition to it. It'd be Commissioner Jongling Commissioner Boots and Commissioner Otten. Correct.
Okay.
So there is a provision in the bylaws that, that we needed 3, and so the commission rep does not vote, but in that case, Commissioner Otten, I believe at his first meeting, had to vote to break a tie, so.
Thank you.
Yep.
Toby, so this eligibility has to be moved, has to be already in the township. It can't come from anybody else? So if we want to move an eligibility and it's already there, we talked about a person that wants to come back and live on the farm, and they have to go through this, getting land and going through that, all that. So, but the eligibility itself has to reside within the township itself. It can't come from, you know, somebody can bank somebody and, because what I was thinking of, it comes outside the township. If I'm gonna build something and I want to put it in Delapre Township, for example, and I have one in Perry Township, can I move an eligibility down to Delapre?
No, because it would change with this. Again, currently, they're moving across the road.
Yeah.
They're
So
not moving anywhere else.
It's confined within the township.
Correct.
I got you.
But we've never, to the best of my knowledge, we've never had an occasion where they've moved township to township.
Okay.
Any other questions from the commission?
Toby, just mechanically, how this works is I own land, we'll just say Brooklyn Township, okay? I'm in Brooklyn Township. I own the land. I currently have an eligibility. Got it in my back pocket. The way that this is going to work is I see another piece of land in Brooklyn Township. I either own that already or I don't own it, and I'm going to acquire it, but that piece of land has no eligibility. I then take the one in my back pocket and I plop that down and I say, boom, build a house here. Is that right? Is that how this works?
Well, I mean, yeah, I'll give you 2 real world examples. This is one we had just this month at the planning commission just last week. Is that an individual purchased a piece of property, knew there wasn't an eligibility, but we worked with him that he could work with adjoining property owners to obtain one. So he obtained one, but in order, that eligibility was owned across the road essentially by another person. So he's a different individual, different ownership there. So he worked with legal counsel to quitclaim deed his property to that individual. And so, you know, from our standpoint, a little bit of a risk there because something could happen in between or within the time frame and stuff like that. So at some point in time, registered in that office over there, registered deeds, was that person quitclaim deed their property to this other person. They apply to us to move the eligibility from this piece to that piece. Then he quitclaim deeds it back to that individual, and then there's a transfer of money as far as the eligibility transfer.
I mean, essentially here, we are, I don't want to say commoditizing, but we are creating some wealth here possibly for people who have eligibilities who want to sell them by making it a little easier, taking away the adjacency requirement, and instead we're now expanding it to township-wide, correct?
Correct.
Okay, now last question. As a component of this discussion here, was there any discussion by planning and zoning while they were contemplating this during the 7 months of just flat out increasing the number of eligibilities?
Yeah, not increasing, no.
Okay, so that was not contemplated as part of this?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Other questions for staff or discussion amongst the commission?
Thank you.
Thank you. If not, this is a public hearing. I will hear for any proponents in favor of the ordinance from the public. Any opponents? Oh, go ahead, sir. Come on up.
Rodney Miles, 27530 470th Avenue, Lenox. And I'm in favor of the ordinance as it's written right now. And the reason I say that is because it opens up a lot of opportunities for areas that are underwater stress or, less desirable to move those eligibilities, which creates an opportunity for people that are looking for a house to build. All they have to do is find a piece of ground, if there's not an eligibility, get that landowner to basically agree to sell them that property, and then find somebody with a transferable eligibility. And you've got a lot of tied up eligibilities. I don't think that we necessarily need to increase the number of eligibilities in the county. We just need to open it up to have flexibility to move these within the township. And by leaving it in the township, you're not going to affect the school districts, you're not going to affect the township, you're not going to basically affect the price of the eligibilities, the value of them, because the value of them in northern Lincoln County are 5 times to 7 times more valuable than in the southern part. And basically, that could affect somebody's, ability to keep their loan. If they took a loan out on a farm and say part of the qualifications for that loan was they were going to take and sell 3 eligibilities off for $150,000 apiece, let's just say. And all of a sudden you open up the Wild West and bring eligibilities up from all over in the county. And all of a sudden you've got a watered down price, and it could affect people financially too. And I think it helps out a lot of younger, smaller farmers in the fact that, especially in the southern region, where they're in livestock down there. And basically, they really don't want somebody else living on that quarter section that they live on. They want to expand their operation. So they could sell those eligibilities if they can find somebody in that township and use that money to expand the operation and basically keep that quarter basically ag ground, and it increases the tax revenue for the townships and the county, and basically just creates more opportunities all the way around. So I'd suggest to support this. Thank you.
Thank you. Other proponents this evening? All right, any opponents?
How are you tonight? I'm going to also throw a history lesson in because some of the stuff said tonight needs some clarification. Thank you for letting me speak tonight. Commissioner Schmidt is a friend of mine, but I want to make a point. He stated at the planning and zoning record that crop farming is not economically plausible anymore unless you have 10,000 acres. This raises a question. Do any other county commissioners have property with land that has have zoning eligibilities? I know Commissioner Scott or Commissioner Schmidt does. Is it a conflict of interest to vote on this? Is it a conflict of interest to vote on this issue? And are there any other commissioners with a similar conflict? So I'm just asking the question, and I'm going to move on. Also, several planning and zoning members who own land in this also voted on this matter. Alternates were not used even though they should have been. This should be corrected by the county commission. And I'm not picking on planning and zoning or the commission. I just want to make a valid point. If you have rules in place, follow your rules, or don't have the rules at all. Before 1985, before the government change, you could build 1 house per acre in Lincoln County on property. I cannot find any record that the county compensated landowners when the housing eligibility was removed in 1985 and 1995. The county has never paid us for that loss. This is a serious property rights issue. It is a taking without compensation. At today's market values, the loss to each landowner for those removed eligibilities would exceed millions. So, number one, how do we fix this? Lincoln County should restore eligibilities, add 4 more to each 160-acre parcel for a total of 8, going back to the 20-acre rule of farming, which was a discussion at one of the last commissioner meetings. With the ability to sell 1 eligibility anywhere in the county. Sometimes people and farmers go through very hard times financially. The only option to save their family farm sometimes is sell an eligibility and transfer to a certain area. Up north, you can get 250,000 to 500,000 for an eligibility. Down south, you get 30,000. So it's like a piece of corn, but the county tells you you can't bring it to the same market. How is that fair? The other housing eligibilities, I'm fine with being sold in the same township, like planning and zoning has recommended. It's a property rights matter. If a housing eligibility are transferred to more than four on an eligibility and on a parcel, this is planning and zoning. That automatically becomes a housing development. It's controlled by the Planning and Zoning Board. So there are controls and regulations and safeguards in place. We need to be very clear on that. So when they hear this is the Wild West, it really isn't. Reconsider the right to farm provision and require equal building rights for everybody in Lincoln County. I can't understand why a landowner that has been there for years has to sign the right to farm to build on his own house when you don't have businesses, commercial, industrials, CAFOs, or any other businesses have to sign the same form. It is an outdated tool that should have been eliminated when the county moved to the quarter-quarter rule, eligibility standards, so it's cleanup work that should have happened back in 1985. As it stands, it's an overreach and undermines property rights. So a landowner friend of mine who just got wiped out by a tornado last year has to come in here and ask you guys to build a house. And so he's already the right to farm, he's already a farmer, and you're gonna force him to sign a paper that nobody else has to sign. I think that legal document that he has to sign changes rules dramatically when you have rules in zoning for CAFOs and everything else that give you 3 days notice instead of 24 hours notice. So the one thing you have to do is forfeit that. Take it out of, just take a little marker tonight and cross that out. So the state already has those requirements. They don't require every citizen in the state of South Dakota to sign a form saying right to farm. It's already a law in the state of South Dakota. So why are we adding extra standards to a citizen? So I just don't understand why we're enforcing more penalties on farmers. And so if no other changes you do tonight or anything else you do, whether you change this, pass this, bring it back to planning and zoning, is the one thing that has to get fixed tonight is removing the right to farm. It's used as a weapon against landowners and people that want to move here to Lincoln County. This is a serious problem, and this is the ask. So why does this matter in Lincoln County? In southern Lincoln County, there's no commercial, industrial, or service development. Nothing to do because the comprehensive plan is inadequate. Planning and zoning is not required to build out roads, drainage, etc. The infrastructure should come with the project so the county is ready for the next development. Roads don't get fixed, yet the county keeps demanding more from landowners. Because our taxes go up every year on the township roads because planning and zoning is allowing what is being allowed out in the agricultural district. Meanwhile, all the industry and commercial go north. Landowners in southern Lincoln counties have been going broke with no options because of total control by the government and taxes. Please change this tonight, and thank you. And Commissioner Schmidt, it's nothing personal, it's just business.
Thank you. Other opponents this evening?
Good evening, Sarah Stever, 46850, 276th Street. I'm also an advocate for opening it up to the entire county and not just township by township. I do like the idea of limiting it to perhaps just one building eligibility so that you wouldn't necessarily get a gold rush. But I like the idea that towards the south where we want most of our agricultural to be, you have a better opportunity to bring your kids back to the farm if they've got a building eligibility to sell off, possibly up to the north where they could get more money for it. So I would be an advocate for that. But I do like that just one idea. I think it's good. Thank you.
Thank you. Other opponents of this ordinance? All right, if there are none, then I will close testimony. Commissioners, any discussion?
I think it's a good first start. I'll support it. Requires some revisions though, but it gets us going. And in the near future, we'll take another stab at it.
Other commissioners? Go ahead, Commissioner Otten.
Thank you. So I was the one who had to break the tie on this, and it was a compromise, actually, to move to within the township on my end and not keep it contiguous, but getting rid of all the rigmarole that had to go along with it. But heard from enough people that it was their opinion we should be able to move around in the township, and so I went that way and supported them. As to Mr. Ventura's comment about the conflict with people voting who have housing eligibilities, I happen to be one of those individuals, but conflict does not occur when you are voting on a matter that pertains to 14,000 housing eligibilities in the county. A conflict would occur if you're voting on your housing eligibility. That's the way I see it.
Thank you. Other discussion amongst the commission?
You know, we hear a lot about that we got to maintain an ag-related, Lincoln County's ag. We got to remain ag, and that's something that we should do. I mean, that's not a question. We are an ag county. You know, once you get down 116, it's agriculture, and let's not change that. I have some real problems, though, with increasing the number of eligibilities, because once you start dotting housing in different areas, different quarters, you guys that are out there, how difficult that could be, because you do hear about complaints about when you're out there working at night, or you're combining, or there's dust, or there's all kinds of things. Or we talked a lot about trying to rebuild our animal industry, so we got more confinements today. So we got more young people that can come into the county and maybe start there with their father's help or their uncle's help or whatever. So this idea of leaving within the townships does have some safeguards, as Toby has mentioned. So I can live with that. But I'm not in favor of increasing, you know, the number of eligibilities on a quarter section. It was established that there were 40, and there are a lot of eligibilities out there right now that are not being used. So I think if you want to open it up and you want to put the brakes on agriculture and on animal development, increase the number of eligibilities and see what you get. That's my comment.
And we're not doing that tonight, so, I mean, are you taking a position on this particular?
As an editorial.
Okay, just checking. Other commission discussion?
I just want to say, I do not have a building eligibility. I will take one if somebody wants to give me one, though.
I'll trade
And
you
I
one.
said give.
Commissioner Aaron's, I'll trade you one for that cabin you have.
There's no way that's happening.
All right, any other discussion on the ordinance? If not, can I get a motion?
Move to approve.
I've got a motion to approve. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Got a motion.
I'm the guy seconding it.
I got a motion and a second. If there's no further discussion, Alicia, will you call the roll?
Commissioner Putnam?
Sustain.
Schmidt?
Yes.
Aaron's?
Yes.
Otten?
Aye.
Landine?
Yes, motion carries. All right, next item on our agenda is presentation from Turner Lincoln Clay Water Project District on a U.S. Department of Agricultural Natural Resources Conservation Services Watershed and Flood Prevention Operations Program.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the commission. My name is Brad Preheim. I'm the manager of the Turner Lincoln Clay, otherwise known as TLC Water Project District. I'm just going to give a 30,000-foot view of what we do for a minute, and then I'll turn it over to someone else. So we're a water project district. We operate under the Water Project District statute, which is kind of specialized. We don't have a general tax levy or anything like that. The only people we tax are the people in the floodplain. And our boundaries, if you can imagine, the floodplain between just north of Vermillion to just north of Davis would be our boundaries. And those are the people we tax, those are the people we help. We have some land in Lincoln County, not a lot, but we do have land in Lincoln County. We have an elected board. And what we've been doing the last 30 years is trying to prevent floods. Unfortunately, that becomes harder and harder with the magnitude of the floods and the amount of water and whatnot. And when I say by preventing, what we try to do is build small dams on cooperative landowners, try to get some wetland restoration in there and whatnot. And then the other thing would be to have some, we help fix the levees and the diking systems along the Vermillion River, the lower Vermillion River. But what happens with our projects is they're just not a lot of bang for the buck. Small dams cost $30,000, $40,000 a piece, and you need hundreds of them to make a difference. So what we've done is also help diking associations. So a diking association would be a group of landowners on the same bluff, on the same side of the river, that no matter where the breach in that levee is, it's going to affect them all equally. So they used to have informal organizations where they would meet on the hood of the pickup at the section line and write a check as all the landowners and fix the dike. Well, as dikes got more and more expensive and more absentee landowners, that became harder to do, because if you have 12 landowners in the association and only 8 of them are going to help pay, you've got 4 that won't pay, and then the 8 have to absorb the costs. So what we've done to help those diking associations is we formalize their operations by putting their special tax levy on themselves on the county tax roll. So these 15, 20 landowners in this area all vote to whether or not they want to tax themselves, which requires everyone to pay their fair share then. So we're helping them with that as well as trying to do all these small projects. I mentioned the small projects aren't enough. We've also tried to get some FEMA help for the diking associations for landowners. We're kind of running into some red tape with FEMA, but that's another thing we're trying to help with our landowners. And we know the damages that floods cause between property and commerce and wildlife and roads and bridges and bus routes, mail routes, name it. The floods, the costs just keep getting worse. So we're looking at bigger projects, not just small dams and dikes and things like that. So we've talked to the NRCS, and we're trying to get in one of their programs that builds big dams and does big things and big dollars and big return for those dollars. And the only problem with that is we need sponsors. The Vermillion Basin Water Development District has agreed to be a sponsor, but they do not encompass Lincoln County. So we've kind of given you some preliminary information at prior meetings to potentially become a sponsor for some of these bigger projects that would hopefully alleviate some flood issues. We do have a consultant that we've hired to help with this. I'm just part-time with the Water Development District. I also run the Water Project District, and those are both part-time jobs. So I have a full-time job. So we have a consultant here, Larry Olson, that has given you some information. I'm just going to have him speak for just a second, and then he'll introduce the engineer for a quick presentation. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Brad. My name is Larry Olson. I'm a retired USDA employee. My previous employment, I was the county executive director in Minnehaha County for Farm Service Agency. Before that, I was in Campbell County. Before that, I was in Turner County as a program technician, started as a field reporter. So I've dealt a lot with USDA programs over the years, extensively with NRCS personnel as well, too. I'm, gladly providing help to our Water Project District. This is a pet project of mine, too, having been a farmer all these years and also a farmer on Vermillion River. I've seen the dramatic changes that we've had, coming on here. And so I'm always looking at ways in order to try to assist people, and in flood prevention, and also with repairs and maintenance that need to be done in these particular things. Having said that, I was dealt quite a bit with your Commissioner Representative Paul Anderson, good individual, and several of your department people. I had a meeting with them a few weeks, a couple months ago, And at that time, I presented a PowerPoint presentation that I believe that Mr. Anderson has provided to all of you. I hope you've had the opportunity to look at it. It gives kind of an overview of what we're doing, what we're trying to do, and what we need, you know, as far as sponsorships and stuff like that. The thing of it is Brad touched on the fact that there are requirements for these sponsorships, and I spelled that out in that PowerPoint that I had as well, you know, that you have to have taxing authority, the right of eminent domain, which doesn't necessarily mean you're going to use it, but it has to be part of it in order to be eligible to be a sponsor. So with that, I'm not going to bore you with a whole lot more. It's been a long evening already, and we have a good presenter here tonight, Daniel Ostrom. He's actually a local person. Grew up, about 25, 30 miles from here over in Clay County. Tremendous individual. He's an engineer for NRCS who resides up in Brookings, and I'm going to turn it over to him to give you the long and the short of this water WFPO program. Thank you.
Madam Chairman, Commissioners, as you said, my name is Daniel Ostrom, and I'm presenting on basically the ins and outs of the program that NRCS offers. It's all based on Public Law 83-566, which is on your screen. This has greater benefit to you as a county that you can consider, and not only the aspects that they are requesting, while it would benefit them and their request too, but I'm here to explain the program and its ins and outs. So it's all part of our watershed operations program, of which there are 3 tiers. One is the EWP, or Emergency Watershed Protection. You may be familiar with Christmas Lake on the east side of Canton here. That was rebuilt a number of years ago through that EWP program. The branch that we are talking about today is the blue branch there, which is a non-emergency type watershed program where you can do a lot of different things, which I'll get into. And then the 3rd tier is basically rebuilding any old infrastructure that was put in our rehabilitation program. And that's just for a rebuild. So that we're really only looking at the yellow or the blue, depending on if it's emergency or not. So if it's not emergency, there are 7 program purposes that this program would allow. What TLC and the Vermilion Basin Water Development District is proposing is for flood protection on the Vermilion, but that can also be put onto other water bodies as well within Lincoln County. You can do watershed protection, which is more like water quality type projects. A lot of overlap between the types of things you can do. You can build dams for watershed protection, but you can also build wetlands. You can do stabilization projects, stream bank protection and stabilization projects, a number of NRCS practices that we do. You can improve fisheries and the water quality of that lake. You can do ag water management, which is like irrigation districts or drainage districts, things of that nature that can be funded. Municipal and industrial water supply, that does not constitute water cleanup after for municipality uses, but only the supply of it. And water quality management, which is also very similar to dams, but most instances, flood protection and watershed protection for quality are kind of the ones that most people are interested in, as well as public recreation on all of these facilities that would be put in. These photos show basically the size and scope of the dams that we can do in this program. Not going to have ones quite that big here in Lincoln County, but they are capable of being done through this program, as well as small little wetland complexes and areas where you could have public trails or things like that added to the community. As far as funding goes, depending on the purpose you would choose, there's different funding that is given from the federal government to the sponsors. And so for flood prevention projects, 100%, all engineering costs are incurred by NRCS for the different, and I'll get into what the different phases of the project are. But even for construction and implementation, that is also 100%. Watershed protection, it says varies basically anywhere between like 60 to 80, like in that 75% range. Similar to EQIP, if you've ever heard of that. It's another one of our programs we have. And a lot of these other purposes are similar, where it's not 100%, there is a cost share variant. These are funded in programmatic phases, where the first one is more just assuring that we have all the sponsors in place that meet all the legal requirements for that sponsor, and that the work that's being proposed would be in line with the law and how it's written. Normally, it takes up to six months. South Dakota is getting better at getting those done even faster now. But it just having all the steps and mainly the information being available to the sponsors on all the logistics of the program are for that first phase. The next phase is when you actually get the benefit of having environmental engineering done, and NRCS pays for all of that. And that alone is what most sponsors are most interested in, is just getting that basically free government engineering to plan these projects. What water benefit projects can you as a sponsor do within your districts to determine how you can benefit your constituents? At that point, if you choose not to even move forward into design or construction, you don't have to. There was no cost associated with anything you've done. It's just been free government money coming up to fund this planning. But you have to meet all of the criteria, and it takes a lot of time to get through this process as well. So the earlier you start, the quicker we can start getting through the process. That being said, and then it has to go to a design phase, and there's a time gap where you're waiting for funding between each one of these, which also adds into the time factor. So realistically, a lot of these take up to a decade or more to get through all four phases for these water projects, which is why they are also larger, and you need a lot of thought into scoping what these projects should entail. As we said earlier, there are requirements for these sponsors. You have to have power of eminent domain over the entire watershed that you are hoping to do the work in. If you do not, as an entity such as Lincoln County, if the watershed extends beyond your borders, you need to have another sponsor join your team that does have those eminent domain or tax and levy capabilities. That is also why the Vermilion Basin Water Development District and the TLC project, which are already sponsors wanting to do work on the Vermilion River, are requesting help from you, because there is no sponsors capable of working in Lincoln County outside of cities, counties, and that's basically it, to my knowledge. So here's an example of the water development districts and where they're at, if you are unfamiliar, whereas Lincoln County does not have a water development district in it. Nebraska has immensely taken hold of this program. They've had $245 million in water projects just to meet demand in 2025. They just got $130 million for construction projects to happen in their state just here a few months ago that it was granted to them federally. Watersheds have to be less than 250,000 acres. They have capacity of the dam that will be allowed. Basically, anything beyond those for flood control purposes becomes the Corps of Engineers jurisdiction in most instances in South Dakota. So NRCS can handle anything up to that point. Only 20% of the benefits need to be ag-related, and there are environmental planning processes that have to be followed with the projects. This program is not new to South Dakota or Lincoln County. There's quite a few projects that were put in mainly in the 70s that are out there adding benefit and flood protection to the Big Sioux River mainly in existence today. You may be familiar with many of the different watershed project boards that are in existence even today. Nationally, these are where most of the watershed projects in this program are, kind of on that I-29 corridor going south. Here's a little bit of a zoomed in map of where a lot of these watershed projects are in Lincoln and Union counties. And many of you are familiar with Lake Lakota. This is a PL 566 dam built through this program. 2024, it provided quite a bit of storage and flood protection, 2,000 acre feet from that one storm event. This is a photo looking downstream of it, buffering all that flood flow that basically filled from almost nothing in Lake Lakota to completely full. This is another one in Charles Mix, so just a view of some of the principal spillway structures that buffer those flood flows. Here's an auxiliary spillway that allows water to flow over. This is a triple spillway option. And in this case, in Charles Mix, these have never run. The principal spillway has handled all the flows throughout the years. Now I'll just bypass that slide. I'll skip this one too in the interest of time. As far as funding, there's always a waiting game for it. Basically, if you look at these numbers here at the bottom in 2023, nationally, we were funded $125 million. 2024, it went to 85. 2025, it went down, but since the passage of the One Big Beautiful Bill Act, there's locked in $150 million each year for the next few years, and basically, as long as that bill is still in existence federally, we will get at least $150 million. There are other annual appropriations that can be put on top of that to add up. So in 2026, nationally, we have $200 million available to us. Here is a map that's a little more specific to the watershed project. This green area is the TLC boundary that is tax levied. And the purple areas are the counties that are in the Vermilion Basin Water Development District. And so they are planning and looking at doing work for sure on these three. Huck 10s are what these little green shaded areas are. They designate specific watersheds that we try to target for these projects to be implemented in. And so the Vermilion Basin would like you to consider these type of projects within Long Creek to be put in. A number of spots have already been kind of looked at for possible dam locations noted by those icons. And so if you wanted to be a part of it, you could be. For this planning go-round that we are implementing and requesting funds for that planning phase, which is the second phase of funding I had mentioned. So I leave it to you as the board. If this is something you'd like to know more about, I can entertain questions.
How did the borders get made in Lincoln County the way that they are? For the purple area?
So none of the purple area is in Lincoln County. So if you.
Okay. Oh, yeah.
So
it's
this
on the
dark
Brown
black
County, you're
border here is the Vermilion River watershed.
Okay.
So any land that, when rain falls in this area that's in the Long Creek watershed, it will drop into the Vermilion right down here.
So the green, the light green area, that's a basin boundary, obviously dictated by, nature. But the TLC, which is the darker green, that's decided by the residents, taxpayers there, right?
Yeah, and Brad could
Okay.
probably speak to
Go
that.
back to the water development district map. So I believe Lincoln.
I don't know how to go back.
In the early phases of the East Dakota Water Development District, I believe Lincoln County was in that for a period of time. I'd have to talk with Jay about that, but Gilberts and Herman might know, but, so Lincoln County is not in a water development.
Keep going.
Okay, okay.
They're not in one. There's.
All right.
Most of the counties East River are.
That one.
You can see,
Yep.
yeah, most of the counties East River are in a water development district. They're
Right there.
on the left.
Yep.
So the yellow would be the East Dakota Water Development District, which largely follows the Big Sioux watershed. The green next to it is what we just did legislatively last year to increase. The McCook, Turner, and Clay used to be the Vermilion Basin. We added portions of Lake Kingsbury and Minor. And we work in conjunction with TLC. Water Development Districts have their own statute and water project districts have their own. But basically what the Water Development District and TLC are asking is if we want to do some projects on Long Creek, The Water Development District does not have that area, Lincoln County does. And as Daniel's presentation shows, through the planning stages, there's no cost. And once all the information comes back to you and says, here's the projects that can build, here's what they do, here's, what we think it would help for flooding, then you as a commission could decide if you wanted to stay on as a sponsor, and if not, you're not out anything. Daniel can maybe say, if you do stay on as a sponsor, then what is their responsibilities at that point? And it's basically taking control of the structures after the build. And he can elaborate on that part.
And the $64,000 question is, what do you do in order to access that one big beautiful bill money? We're currently, as a county, we're not eligible for that, are we? Because we're not in the, right?
You would be, as a
Oh, we would
sponsor.
be.
If you sign in as
Okay.
a sponsor, you would be eligible to receive whatever amount of funding it would require to do the planning for the project purposes that you would want to sign up for.
Right.
It goes through the NRCS, that's who's getting the money.
Okay.
And so I'll just throw it out there that, like, the city of Mitchell is looking at doing this for the fire steel, and we're still currently working with them. We always refer to it as a playbook. When you do that planning phase, you can get a playbook that's bought and paid for. And so, I mean, you're talking $1 to $2 million worth of engineering that the government is going to pay for doing the watershed planning in that watershed of whatever projects you guys have interest in pursuing. And so that's just a playbook you can choose to say, oh, there it is. We like this project, or this landowner is interested in doing this, but this one's not, so we're not gonna do that one. Or you can solicit, like, here's some plans of different places you can do things, which landowners you can, have public meetings and try to see which landowners would be interested in doing projects using that playbook. But the playbook is built with the environment in mind of where could these either dams or wetlands or whatever the water project is, where could they best be located to meet the purpose that you guys are pursuing?
A few years ago, 17, 18, 19, maybe my numbers are off, apologize. No, I got on what did I get on? I got on 8 years ago. Right on after getting on this commission, we got those 3 wet years. There was significant, heavy discussion from citizens. We were having special meetings, people were packing this room and other rooms regarding drainage issues. And essentially, Lincoln County serves as a catch basin for the city of Sioux Falls, which is significant. And then to a lesser degree as you go further south. But, people have constantly come up to me and said, they get the fact that the county can't pay for it themselves. But I think they were looking for somebody to help unlock some kind of assistance, because the amount of water that's coming down from Sioux Falls is only going to increase. We just had the discussion tonight, 2050 comp plan, right? There's up to 70,000 residential homes could fit, if you built them density style, according to the city of Sioux Falls, could fit inside the joint area. Where's all the water going to go? So, thank you for the presentation. I appreciate it.
Just to reiterate what he said as far as the planning goes on there, there's no cost involved in the planning process, and there's really nothing you're looking at until you're actually going to implement a practice. And you can see a flood control one, the planning and the engineering is 100% paid for, and then also the construction. So what the sponsor would be primarily looking at is getting those easements, holding those public hearings, in order to make sure that everybody's on board and stuff like that. That's where we know if it would be something other than what flood control you saw, that there's different cost share measures in there. But then there's also additional NRCS programs that go on top of that. So we're not looking at a big ask for money, it's just basically, come on board as a sponsor, so that we can go to the next phase.
Oh, and the one clarification, you put in your budget chart there, that's 150 million nationwide, correct, for NRCS?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
South Dakota has not received funding through that program for a number of years. So we're kind of hoping that since other states have been receiving funds through this program for a number of years, that there would be more likely to receive that. Another clarification is that it doesn't have to be only those allocated funds to fund these type of projects. With congressional approval, you can specifically get your project voted on the floor of Congress to be funded, which does happen. But typically for, correct. Typically for the building and actual construction parts that have gone past the planning phases is typically when those happen. But I will also add in that as sponsors, the sponsors own those structures. And so you can have agreements and other long-term, leases, plans, however you want to do it. In this case, you would, if you wanted to go with this Long Creek Huck, that was the lighter green area, and partner with the sponsors that are proposing with you, you guys can come to agreements as to who gets to own that when it's decided, are you going to move forward with a project or not? Or you can hire other entities to do operation and maintenance, or whatever has to happen for that structure for the longevity of its lifespan.
What would happen if I said, or if this commission came to you and said, help us with this large Sioux Falls, northern Lincoln County water issue coming down and affecting the rest of the county? Am I just asking too much, saying solve my
That's a
problem?
scoping question, and I will remind the presentation that we said 250,000 acres is for flood protection is our maximum capability. If it's beyond that, if you're on the Big Sioux proper, that will be beyond that 250,000 acres, and then would probably have to have conversations with the Army Corps of Engineers. They are in the same boat because they're looking at the Vermilion River, and if they were to do dikes and levees just north of Vermilion, where a lot of those levees are in existence, and they want to fix and repair those, that's like, I was thinking, it's like 1.2 million acres, if I remember right, instead of 250,000. So we have to do more dams on the tributaries. So if you scroll right back down to that lowest slide, so I don't know how familiar with USGS Huck 10s, but each one of these little polygon shaped in light green is what's known as a Huck 10. And so it's designated by the U.S. Geological Survey to be a specific watershed. So Frog Creek, which is actually the one I grew up in, on the south end there, that size, that's all the drainage area for Frog Creek proper, and then it drains into the Vermilion. So we're not going to do work on the Vermilion River itself, but we're going to try to build dams in each one of those separate hucks. And each one has basically a plan written for that huck. And so it's a number of plans stacked together just to meet all the statutes and requirements that the law has for the program. So they're trying to decide how many they're going to put in one push. So you can say, well, we're going to do 3 in one push and see what kind of funding we get. You can come back 2 years later, and even though that one might take 10 years to get done, you can say, we're going to sign up again, and we're going to add another 2 hucks and try to push those through. Or you can try to do all 10 of them at once. And there's different ways of doing the engineering for that. You can have engineering that you guys as sponsors hire your own engineers to do the work. Or there's a federal program, it's called IDIQ. It's an indefinite delivery, indefinite quantity contract that the federal government already has with a consulting firm out of Illinois. And they have multiple firms underneath them that they subcontract work through, and NRCS pays them directly for that engineering work to get done. If you want to have your own engineer, and that way you can dictate with a little more control on how things are done, you can do it that way as well. A benefit of that IDIQ is not only not needing to have the financial responsibility of paying your own engineer, but they have so many other engineering firms that they will just task out each individual huck of doing 10. So that firm gets one huck, that firm gets another huck, that firm gets another huck. And so you have 10 different firms doing all the engineering and planning in 10 different units within that watershed. So for you, if you're looking on the eastern side of Lincoln County with the Big Sioux, you'd do the same thing. You would have multiple sub-tributaries all looking at what type of watershed projects can we do in each individual watershed.
Thank you. Other commissioners have questions? If not, is there public input on the presentation? All right, thank you, gentlemen. Move on to item 5 on our agenda, motion to remand an ordinance to the County Planning Commission amending Chapter 154 zoning of the Code of Ordinance for the regulation of non-accessory solar energy systems.
Thank you, Madam Chair, Commissioners. Toby Brown, representing County Planning and Zoning Department. So I'll be brief. The Planning Commission's been working the past 7 months on just discussion of possible amendments to the regulations for solar, non-accessory solar energy systems. And so kind of proud of the Planning Commission. They did a public input process throughout the last 7 months. So they allowed the public to just comment. And then there was interaction between the Planning Commission and the citizens. Out of it, I think, came a reasonable ordinance that had pretty much was unanimous support to recommend to you to remand it back to them. So tonight, I'm not asking you to get into the weeds of this particular ordinance. I'm just asking on behalf of the Planning Commission to remand it back to them so they can expend county funds, have a public hearing, take for and against of the ordinance, and then send it back to you if that's so your wishes. If not, you could kill it at this stage too, if that's whatever wishes that you have at this time. But the Planning Commission has put a lot of work and effort into this draft. And I know there's a number of citizens in attendance tonight that have been instrumental in providing a lot of input to these draft regulations. So with that, Madam Chair, I'll turn it back to you. Again, the request is to remand it back to the Planning Commission for a public hearing.
Thank you. Any public input on the request for the motion?
Bethany Eric, 46747 291st Street. I'll be brief as well. I think we worked really hard to bring forward all of the concerns and address them as best we could. The only concern that wasn't really addressed, and I'll remand this to you guys for your thought process, is we talked a little bit about whether or not, since this is kind of a ugly process, dirty process for solar, that should it be an ag? Should it be industrial or should it be ag? And we could get more tax revenue because solar has some potential for lead leaching and destruction of farm ground. Would we be better served to put it into an industrial use? And that really didn't get addressed during our visit within the planning and zoning. So it's all in all a good ordinance. I'm pleased with the work that was done, but I would ask you guys to kind of think through the process of whether or not you want it to zone at the higher tax bracket.
So you're supporting the remand?
I'm supporting it, yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
More work, okay.
Thanks.
Perfect. Anybody else?
Sarah Stever, 46850, 276th Street. I just want to tell you how much we appreciated the fact that we got input where we could actually have a dialogue back and forth. A lot of times, public testimony, as witnessed tonight, feels a bit like you don't ever get a response to your question. You don't get answers. So that process that happened during planning and zoning was good because we did get answers to our questions, and I think it actually was a really pretty good ordinance. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Anyone else? If not, can I get a motion?
Just one question, procedural. Toby, what was the reason for the remand? How come they didn't just keep working on it until they were ready to go?
So under statute, I included the statute in there, is that typically you would remand something back to the board, to the planning commission, to bring forward back to you. So the planning commission, both case, this previous ordinance, this evening in this ordinance, the planning commission initiated that discussion. They didn't have any direction from the board. So following formalities to make sure we do it right, so.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Is there a motion?
Motion to remand this back to planning and zoning for further study.
Second.
I got a motion and a second. If there's no further discussion, will you call the roll, please?
I'm sorry, who was the second?
I was.
Thank
Right
you.
down here.
Aaron's.
Thank you. Commissioner Putnam?
Yes.
Schmidt?
Yes.
Aaron's?
Yes.
Otten?
Aye.
Landine?
Yes, motion carries. Next, we have opportunity for public comment for items not on our agenda.
Madam Chair, Linda Montgomery, Fairview, South Dakota. I was approached by a citizen again. I promised that I would bring this up. Back in April 14th of 2026, you approved the $235,000 for the Veterans Memorial at the Justice Center. Now, I have heard that this is no longer something that's going to be done, and I just respectfully ask that you put it on the agenda so that the public can know for sure what's happening. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Other public comment this evening? If not, is there a commission office report? Any commissioner reports? Yep, go ahead, Commissioner Otten.
Thank you. So last Tuesday, I attended a pre-silage harvest meeting for the dairy down south, and Toby was there, and Terry, and I think one other from Lincoln County. It was just, there was 2 townships involved in there. The sheriff's department was down there also. It's just a really good planning information and allow, I guess, the townships and them to have some conversations with the dairy and the sheriff's department about the issues they've seen. But I thought it was a very good meeting and very informative, so.
Thank you, Commissioner. Other commission reports tonight? All right, if not, any need for executive session?
Sorry to do this, it's late, but yes.
Okay. And all right, I need a motion to go into executive session under SDCL 125-2, sub 3 and sub 4.
Nobody likes you.
So moved.
Is there a second? I need a second.
Second.
I got a motion and a second. Alicia, will you call the roll?
Commissioner Putnam?
Yeah.
Schmidt?
Yes.
Aaron's?
Yes.
Otten?
Hey.
Landine?
Yes.
Executive session.
So moved. Second.
Motion made and second. Call the roll, please.
Commissioner Putnam? Yeah. Schmidt?
Yes.
Aaron's?
Yes.
Otten?
Move to
Out of
adjourn.
executive session, and by council, I can adjourn the meeting without a vote, correct?
You can declare yourself out of executive session without.
Yeah, we are declared.
You can't adjourn without a vote.
I thought you told me,
Otherwise.
say, just a minute, before we do that. You told me that the chair can adjourn the meeting without an executive.
You got it backwards.
All right,
I've heard you many times.
I understand about executive session. Motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Motion to adjourn. We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Yes.
Any comments? Hearing none, call the roll, please.
Commissioner Putnam?
But to adjourn.
To adjourn.
Adjourn.
Yeah, what the hell?
All right. Schmidt?
Yes.
Aaron's?
Yes.
Otten?
All you need is